Doors that lead back to the beginning of the game? Cruel, yet understandable. It's your last chance to exit this dimension. Go back living your life the way it was before. Hypothetically, if the only choice you've got is to do the wrong thing, then it's really not the wrong thing. It's more like fate. Seeing his son play an illegally produced 40 games in one cartridge made in Taiwan, Vince Perry, a businessman from Florida, had the idea to create a similar product, but through legal means. Perry's neighborhood seemed to go crazy about these multi-game cartridges, and as a venturer in business, he saw the money-making opportunity. It was a no-brainer for the cash-loving entrepreneur. Unfortunately, Perry had little to no knowledge in video game production, and as a result didn't even know how time-consuming video game development could be. It was estimated that Perry raised around $20 million from private backers. 3 individuals from college were assigned to create 52 games, and the deadline for the entire project was a whopping 3 months. There were rumors that the original game count was 60, and that they only had time to do 52 of them. This is however not true. There was something called a bank switch bug, which I'll go into more detail later. It showcased 8 unused templates, so it was believed that these 8 templates were the 8 slots for more games that were left undone. Some games just had to be split up into multiple parts, which caused confusion. 3 whole months. They built the Eiffel Tower in that time. Pretty sure. Unfortunately, close to no testing was done. Each game was produced from random bits and pieces, as it would seem like in most cases, random sprite art was distributed amongst them. The games weren't ran enough times to find problems, and as the video game knowledge Perry had was limited, there was nobody to supervise the project. One by one the games were finished, but they weren't adequately tested. The biggest NES game releases were 2 megabytes in size, while the common size was around 300 kilobytes. Action 52 measured at around 700 kilobytes, which begs the question how big the individual games really were. Most of the games have repeating screens to overcome the issue with limited space. This alone hindered any kind of realistic progress that could have made the games more playable. The space limitation alone caused all of the games to look something like Atari 2600 games instead, even worse than the Black Box series. There were things they could have done to overcome some of these problems, but the story tells they had little experience. Usually multi-carts had simple games, around 24K in size, so that they could fit as many of them as possible. This is why you don't often see titles outside of the Black Box series or other simple, small games in multi-carts. Let alone the fact that the advertised number of games wasn't true most of the time. Same games would be recycled over and over with a different starting point. Action 52, with its 52 original games, was doomed from the start. Action 52 retailed for $199 when it was released in 1991, which in 2018 would have been $366. For that kind of money, you could have had several real NES games instead and been a lot more satisfied. The SNES version was cancelled, but there was also a Sega Genesis version that actually got released, but that's another story of its own. I'm not going to explain the full history of this game, since there's already a good video about it here on YouTube, and I'll link it in the card at the top right. The biggest, most ambitious game of the 52 was Cheetahmen. A toy line and a cartoon was planned, but with any kind of project that doesn't get supervised, all of those ideas came crumbling down. With the essentials out of the way, it's time to look at each game in depth. Go get your Hot Pockets and White Russians, this is going to take a while, but you'll leave with a bundle of information and maybe even some unseen footage of all of the games. As you can see, the cartridge is clear, with a sticker on it. There is also a black label version, which is even more valuable. There are different revisions, revision A, revision B, and different kind of cartridges out there, but they all play almost the same, aside from a few bugs and glitches and games that don't run. I should mention that the cartridge starts to smell like it's dropping ass after 20 minutes, so I'd advise closing the lid and not using a top loader. Here is me, putting the cartridge in and pressing the power button on my Nintendo Entertainment System, indicating that I'm playing the game live right now, but in reality I'll turn to my pre-recorded footage I shot on an emulator and hope nobody saw that my controllers weren't even hooked up. I make videos on YouTube. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. It Takes Two by Rob Bass. Let's find one song with the word 2 on it to signify that at least the other number of 5 and 2 was used. This amount of detail in the song blows my mind. They could do this, but not make a single good game. Well, how could you when you only had 1 kilobyte to use for each of them? Most of the music in Action 52 is rather catchy, but some of it was plagiarized from other sources.
Active Enterprises.
Make your selection now.
Make your selection now. I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda. What kind of value does this sentence add? They had a voice sample in the game, but they decided to make it say, make your selection now. It's not like we have any other option. The sole act of putting the game into the system implied that we're going to make a selection anyway. This sentence is redundant. Nico evaluates. Game number 5 is always highlighted at first for some reason. Ooze. Why don't you start at number 1? Well, here's the reason. They stole the menu from another multi-cart, which also started at game number 5. To find out why, we'd need to research that game, but let's just concentrate on Action 52 this time. Long story short, they stole shit and didn't even modify it apart from the colors. Fire breathers. It's the last of the Dragon Wars. You must kill the Dragon Riders in the midnight skies and bring victory to the kingdom. Begin or main menu. What is the purpose of this screen? I already selected a game, why should I back out now? I can just quit a game by pressing start and select anyway. This whole screen is pointless since the next screen is there for half a second and then the game starts. So you're not losing any time either by just quitting the game inside itself. Level 1, player 2, zeros, blocks, I'm sorry, what? This was probably meant to serve as some sort of a point counter, but the screen stays up for less time than it takes to blink. And it's gone. Hello? No music. Think they forgot to mention that both of you are the Dragon Riders. Except the blue dragon looks like Batman just hung himself. I'm dead, man. Upon first inspection, this game looks a lot like Combat on Atari. Only that game is far superior. You're supposed to kill each other one stage after another. They didn't code diagonals in, so the only method of moving is to press one direction at a time. This makes maneuvering and trying to hit the other person way harder than it needs to be. There are several oddities and mistakes present. You can't fly over the building, but you can shoot through it. That's a strike. A shared problem between all of the games can be seen here. If your sprite is too far to one edge, you ignore all damage. With no time limit or punishment in the game, the other player can just sit there forever. Nice. I gotta hand it to them, this game has health bars for the players. That's a luxury that we're not going to get with all the games. But why is the blue player's health bar purple and why does it have so much more shading? It's like the health bars are just stripped from existing garbage sprites, meant to serve as placeholders but were never changed. My goodness, what is this? You're in the middle of a fight scene straight from the Game of Trophies. Never watched the show. And a decapitated Pac-Man head rolls in and hurts you. Yeah, what are you, stupid? Touch the Pac-Man head. It just slowly rolls around and it doesn't really contribute anything to the game. How do you get hit by it anyway? It looks like it's just rolling on the ground, but we're flying. Huh. Level 2 begins when the other person loses all of their health. And it begins instantly, no time to waste. If we pause the footage, we can see that it keeps score. We have to pause the game to see the score. Oh my god. Interesting, so unless you record your game on a VCR and pause it on the score screen, you're not gonna know who's winning. The angle is just off. This looks like some sort of a stone wall, but you can actually go through it. So every time there's a new stage, the first thing both players are doing is to check what you can fly through and what you can't. A well-made game presents itself to you in a way where you can instantly know what's obstructing you and what isn't, by creating atmosphere, angles, shadows and just good design. But this is not even bad design. It's design that was never planned. This was never meant to be the finished product. Level 3, let's see who's winning. Ah, shit! I blinked. If you kill each other at the same exact time, you both get a point. At least that could be considered as a good idea. I'd probably just repeat the stage if there was a draw. Problem with that is that you can't go back once the code executes a win condition. A callback was never made, so it just executes a point for both, because both of the players execute the winning requirements at the same time. Next level. There really isn't any kind of thought put into the levels, it's just random tiles reused over and over in different spots. Combat on Atari was better because it looked more clean, it was simple to understand, and most importantly, it was fun. And there was no fucking Pac-Man head rolling around trying to kill you. Watch out for the flame. A stationary object that also hurts you. Makes sense to me. Flame bad, Pac-Man head bad. Got it. Level 5 and the Pac-Man head code gets rewritten and it becomes a mess of garbage. Too many levels and broken code, that's what you get. As the players keep dealing damage to each other and beating levels, the code gets mangled and starts executing shit that doesn't make any sense because it was never tested. There's a fence now. Or is it a fence, or is that a trench, or straw that's bent? And this is the NES, you are fully capable to make sprites and backgrounds that are easy to distinguish. This building looks like a TV wall mount. And yes, you can go through the fence. I just noticed that if you spam the other person dead, what could be considered too fast, the death sound carries over to the next level. So either the code keeps executing in the background of the score screen, or the same level plays until enough kills are made and the score screen is there just to hide the transition. What? You can go through the boundaries! That means it's even easier to dodge damage by being at the edge when getting shot. This one, the pink person is behind this massive wall and effectively at a disadvantage. And that's the last stage. It just says game over. Oh shit! That's why there's a begin or a main menu screen. It brings you to it when the game ends. Like I'd want to play it again. Just add this screen whenever a game gets beaten. You don't need it at the beginning of each one. Then it would make more sense to change begin to new game. Fire breathers. Fuck me. Star evil. The star gets brighter until there's no night. Then the fire creatures come out to rule and defeat you, but kill them all and bring back the night. El culo del diablo! If I had glasses, I'd take them out and rub my eyes out of disgust. Any game that respects their audience doesn't put any obstacles or enemies on the first screen, ever. You need to be able to get your bearings before you're thrown into ass passage. Look at how close these blocks are. The moment the level starts, it takes about 0.3 seconds to hit them. You need to be holding right before the stage even loads. If the developers went back even once to check how the game plays, they would have noticed this. How long does it take to move those fucking blocks? Think about it. Because you tracked ass, people have been dying to this single block for 28 years. Holy shit. Then the fire creatures come out to rule and defeat you, but kill them all and bring back the night. It's already night, or we're in space, nevertheless. The description makes as much sense as Brexit. 4 player 1. How vague is that? Well, the 4 is your lives, apparently. They just didn't think it would be a good idea to tell you that. Yep, 4 player 1. Sensible. Well, what is wrong with this one then? We have a health bar, but no invincibility frames. Touch an enemy or a wall for too long and you die instantly. too long, being a few frames. Most of the time you don't even have to move. A few enemy ships come flying down and they're usually not in your way. Your biggest obstacle is going to be not knowing how not to softlock the game. On the later stages, you'll deal with hitboxes so bad it makes you think you die to nothing. Look at this. That's nice. Touch any of that red area and you're good as dead. Sprites should always match their hitboxes, because the player, believe it or not, doesn't have psychic powers to know where the boundaries are. I'd sort of understand this if the shapes were circles or something, because then it would at least make sense why they'd mess it up. But these are squares. It's almost like they first drew the sprite and then they attached a hitbox value to it that was close enough, without actually testing it. You might have noticed on other reviews how the boss doesn't always appear. Seemingly a random occurrence isn't so random in my research. So, why doesn't the boss always show up? Well, you exceeded the sprite limit. What does that mean? You shot too many Q-tips. Yes. If you shoot too much, the boss doesn't appear at the end of the stage because it can't be called until there is enough space for it. Listen, the boss gets wiped because it's one of the flags in the code, and if the flag gets wiped by the sprite limit, then it doesn't exist anymore. You can't make the boss disappear if it's already on the screen, because the flag was already called out. Notice how no enemy ships spawn if you keep holding the turbo button. You're effectively rewriting every enemy with your shots. Once the screen stops, the code calls the boss in. If you are shooting when the boss is being called in, chances are that you are exceeding the sprite limit on the screen and the boss can't spawn in. The limit isn't due to NES's limitations, it's actually just horrible coding. The NES can display 8 sprites per horizontal scan line, but even then, it can be coded in a way where the rest just flicker. There are real sprite limitations on the system, but this is not it. If the developers didn't add their own sprite limit, then most likely what would happen is that you would just get swarmed by enemy ships instantly, so they added a barrier. Why did they do this? Most likely because they didn't know how to code it in any other way, so they put a band-aid on a problem they created. Which then results in the code getting mangled in the background if you fail to play it just the way the code progresses. Notice how in this game only 2 ships appear at once. If you keep shooting, then that limit has already been exceeded and nothing else spawns. Keep shooting before the screen is about to stop and the boss can't come in since there are more than 2 objects on the field. At that point, the game ends when the screen stops, as there are no actions left to call since the boss spawn is tied to the screen stopping. So, if you want to advance in this game, don't shoot at the end. You can shoot a few enemies here and there to be safe, but don't make it a habit, since you can't really anticipate when the level is going to end. And there we go, the boss has spawned. The boss AI is not exclusive just for this game, in fact, a lot of the enemies use the same exact AI in multiple games. I'll explain this only once, so in the future when you see this same AI, you'll know how it works. It's not even that complicated. This boss does not shoot bullets, but this same AI is used elsewhere where it does. The shots are timed. Every time a certain amount of time passes, the boss shoots at your location. Also, every time the boss changes direction, it does so randomly. The time it travels in one direction is also completely random. This version of the boss also ignores any scenery, making it possible for it to just move inside a wall where you can't go, making you wait for it to return to somewhere you can shoot it again. Why is the boss a fucking birthday cake? Another strike is that it doesn't even make any sound when you hit it. Ever heard of feedback? The single thing that makes shooting things satisfying. Give me a ding, give me anything. Stage 2. Shut! We're going for the same strategy. Don't shoot too much so we can proceed. To beat the game, you have to understand the game. Jesus Christ, what? Didn't I say it sometimes seems like you die to nothing? Well, guess what? They forgot some kind of a tile on that spot that isn't visible. Yep, that'll kill you. Oh my goodness. These death blocks that aren't visible can also be found in other games, they're just laid about. Notice how the stage repeats over and over until you've traveled far enough. Yeah, it's one of those space-saving mechanisms in the game, and most games use it. You'll be doing laps over and over, so in a sense the game is fooling you. Most levels in most games would be like 3 screens long without the repeated sections. What a great layout, it's obstructing our flight from the sides, and it takes a longer time to kill the boss as a result. It doesn't necessarily make it harder, but more frustrating. Another point where we can see that either the developers didn't know how to make rewarding experiences, or they just didn't have the time to even try. This one is even more worthless. The tiles are brown now, and behold, the cake. Level 4. Looks like they didn't finish the game, so it's impossible to beat. Still a better ending screen than Ghostbusters. Some cartridges have a black screen, some pink. My god, I'm at the end of my rope. What game number was this? 2? El Nino. Illuminator. The Illuminator must find his sister in the... The Illuminator must find his sister in the dark. He must also find batteries if he's get weak, and can use a special spotlight to kill the enemies. Can also get additional flashlights, but he must be careful of enemies like shadows, vampires, and others. Find your sister in the goddamn dark. What is this, Alabama? We have a game where you're trying to find your sister in the dark and bring batteries with you. Sexual immorality. This concept is somehow even more strange than the fellow who had sex with his car. Ugh, that's a vampire? I lost a couple of chromosomes. Looks like King Kong ripped his jaw in half. The basic principle is to shoot these Meongs so the lights come back. A few moments pass and it goes dark again. Shoot another, rinse and repeat. Supposedly you're shooting out flashlight beams, but it looks more like SpongeBob's vaginas. Enemies can't spawn right next to you, so sometimes when you reach a ladder, a new enemy spawns on the same floor, making you look like an idiot. Jumping off a gap will kill you, as in most of the games featured on this cartridge. The fall damage isn't the one that kills you, it's descending too far in the air. You'll learn after a few games what too far means. Rather than code real fall damage or hazards like spikes, they added a simple way to tell if you've made this kind of mistake. All that the code is looking for is if you're in the air for too long, descending down. Main problem with this is that you should never do this in the first place, but also the time you travel down that kills you is far too short. If you can't make these simple jumps down, make it look like actual fall damage, and please, make the sprite reach the ground. Now the game just kills you for nothing, in the air. Only because the code is realizing that you're falling for too long and cuts the rope to your life support. Also, what the Christ is this? This little fuck trophy turns into an upside down ice cream cone when he dies. I've never done crystal meds, but I'd like to know what it is like on the other side. There is no order in which you need to kill these fellows, so you can just stay on the floor, reach a ladder, go back and keep killing them there. When the spawn counter of the enemies is at 0, no new Meongs will come out. That's where you can go and kill the rest on the other floors. That is the easiest strategy, as with a game like this, there really isn't any good methods to code this so that it would make actual sense. All that it has is a kill counter, and once it's reached, you go to the next level. All that changes is the layout, and sometimes there will be a small battery to collect, but they didn't actually code a flag for it, so it does nothing. There was also a bigger battery, but they never used it in the game. Flashlights were never even added, and your sister is nowhere to be found. Well, it's not entirely true. She can be seen in the files that were never put in by hacking the code, but on a normal run, she never appears. As you go through the levels, the vampires get faster, and that's about it. One hit and you're dead. This makes climbing ladders fun, as it's sometimes impossible to make it if you're blocked by an enemy. I've heard people say that the enemies get stuck sometimes. No, that would actually be a better alternative, because then you'd know it was a glitch. Here's how they did it though. When an enemy spawns, a random walking area is applied to it. This length is truly a random number between 0 and infinity. This is what it looks like when an enemy spawns in with a 0 attached to their walking area. It just notches back and forth. Random calls are the easiest to code, and it always makes the game so much worse if not done right. I do like the effect when you kill one of them, it's like they melt and burn. Biggest problem, however, is the fact that you don't really have to move much. Just keep killing fuckers on one floor, and once no more spawn, kill the rest. Also, all of these games have the buttons backwards. B makes you jump and A makes you do the action inputs. That's fucked up. And the best part is that they didn't even code in the simplest controls for any of these games. If you hold down the jump button as you move in the air, it locks your movement vertically. So the easiest way to jump is to quickly tap the jump button and then move. Diagonals, they're not a thing. The only thing the code is looking for is up, down, left and right. God help if you press multiple directions at the same time. It has no idea what to do and usually just locks you up, because it's calling 2 directions at the same time, with no explanation on what to do then. So every time you jump one of these gaps, you have to remember to first press jump and then move, or just tap jump and move. If you do hold down the jump button, you can kind of see that you jitter forward a few pixels at a time, then stop, jitter some more, so that makes me think that even with a press down button, there's still a timer trigger where the button press is ended anyway, making you do some progress as the jump button is lifted from you every now and then. But it's still not enough to make it through any kind of gaps reliably. So just let go of jump and you'll be alright. As alright as you can be. Ladders are inconsistent. You can grab a ladder even from its sides and you never really snap into them. That's because they're not actual objects, they're just part of the background with an exception where pressing up and down makes your character move accordingly. For example, the ladders in games like Mega Man are actual ladder objects, so interacting with them is easy and makes sense. And these lamps, they're in the background. You just don't hit your head on them, yet they look like they're physical objects to watch out for. There's 10 levels in this, which is fucking criminal. Level 10, for example, starts with 2 bats coming at you faster than you could ever run. Usually these bats show up in certain spots, and in this level it's all planned. They really don't want you to beat this game, because the sister sprite was never put in. The only way I was able to go through this was with save states, and even then it's near impossible. You have to know they're coming, and the only way to get rid of them is to go through the screen to the other side to trick the AI. Once you beat level 10, the game repeats. No ending, no nothing. I know you wanted to see us fuck, not sister, but what are you gonna do? At least we still have the batteries in our equipment. G-Force Fighters. Watch your fuel level, use it wisely and escape the force that holds you. The enemies are strong, but the G-Force of the planet will take us as we get powerless. G-Force faggot. It just screams finished when every screen of the game has a different name for the title. Manual says G-Force Fighters, game list says G-Force Fict, and the game screen says G-Force. You're a chihuahua's vomiting head flying through brown sticks in space. The sticks do kill you, but the sprite extends 50% below the hitbox, so you can still fly in that area. What are those? Well, they're lasers, shot by the enemy ships. Only they move so fast they outrun their own shots. We got farting turtles, pumpkin fellow, staplers, and finally a flaw that haunts a lot of the space shooters. They never made sure to include enemies on all horizontal lines, allowing you to just stand there and wait for the level to play itself. Second stage, you get hit immediately because the enemies are already placed in as the screen transitions. The hitbox is now fixed at the top, or rather accidentally accurate. That doesn't mean we can't scum it though. Here you go. Stage 3 is a copy of Stage 2 essentially. Nice for them to add variation by having different enemy sprites for different levels. I sure as hell know what this is supposed to be. The angles on this are all wrong. It looks like a squashed baby. Then there's this fucker that's obviously supposed to walk on the ground. Did I mention that you can shoot? Why would you though? And what did the manual say? Watch your fuel level? There's no... Even if you were to treat this as a high score game and killed a bunch of plain people, the game doesn't have a battery, so none of it would be saved. And there are no high score lists anyway, so it all just destroys the point of having score in the first place. Game done. But wait, why are there fucking bathroom tiles in space? Or pubes? Some questions can never be answered. Fuck me. Ooze. Avoid the green ooze. Ah, I see. A title screen. All of a sudden there's a title screen. Well, this game is a bit special, and I don't mean special in the handicapped way, or the special forces way. Wait, the developer held a contest where the first person ever to beat the game would win $104,000. Big problem, however, as some versions of the game crash in level 2 if you happen to die. I just hope that was it for the problems, but actually beating level 2 as well on some versions will crash the game. Revision B of the cartridge is the better version, but let's see if you can beat the game on an emulator and see if we can win the money. First of all, it's never good when somebody starts with a first of all. 8 lives. That's a random number. Why don't any of these games have animations for jumping? You just fly up in a straight line, in the same stance you were when you lifted from the ground. The same jump mechanics that I talked about previously apply to every game, so we don't need to discuss that every time. Well, okay, almost every game, I'll tell you when there's an exception. Do note that on level 1 you can jump through these platforms and then you suddenly can't anymore. God forbid we ever figure out what any of this shit is supposed to represent. We know for a fact that these little dickheads are Ooze. Oozes. Ooze-eye. Oh, and just to prove a point I made about the pizza earlier. There are no hazards down there, no coded in death at the bottom, so you simply wrap around the screen, come down from the top, hit the falling threshold trigger, die and turn into a green pile of pussy sundae. Take that, secondary color! I adore how the protagonist looks like a drawing I made in school and was immediately taken in for mental health evaluation. Holy shit! A whirlpool out of nowhere, and yes, there is no time to react to it. You learn by dying. You absolutely need to know when it's coming, or it's too late. You oughta memorize the whole stage, which is not impossible to do considering the same screens just repeat. Oh! Somebody's nose. Don't get snorted now. At least they have a different sprite for the hopping oozes and the standing oozes. Attention to detail and makes it a little easier to predict. In some games, your own sprite doesn't even match the orientation of it. I'm shooting out of my own ass because the sprite is turned left in reality, but the actual graphic is still turned right. They missed a few frames there. Stage 2 has some new challenges. Like I said, you can no longer jump through these platforms, and now there are more noses dropping on us, making it really feel like a new experience. Shut! Oh, and levels just end, and they just start. The game just wipes the screen and injects another section of the code, instead of just making a fresh start completely with cutscenes and other breaks. Wow, this is just... You lure the noses down, you advance. It's not like it's challenging, you just have to get up to them, not even under, and they drop down. All you do is wait. Now the Ooze fellows don't even shoot. They just stand there like a bunch of statues. Well, we just made enough laps, so it ended. Level 4. This game also has a problem with shooting the enemies, but I'll save that for another game since the shooting isn't a big part of this. Per actual tradition, everything is faster now. And you still can't kill these water droplets, so you have to learn where they are. 8 lives really isn't enough if you have to learn by dying. Imagine game overing in level 4. Look, a bit of platforming. Too bad the enemy is now too low to shoot. Enemies need to have telegraphs for their actions. Here, the enemies just shoot out bullets without a warning. Nobody can react to that. Jesus! Now there's 2 of these. The noses have become colored. Another problem is that in a lot of these platforming games, you can only have 1 bullet on the screen at once. If you hesitate or you shoot too early, then there's a good chance you'll just die because there is nothing else you can do. Oh, final stage, and the blue color on the platforms signify that you can jump through them again. How considerate. The only real obstacle in this stage is to know where to go. If you drop down to the path below, you actually can't proceed and you have to kill yourself. You need to repeat a few laps of the same stretch and stay as high as you can, sometimes maneuvering through the platforms in quite frustrating ways as to not kill yourself in the air. That's right, drop for too long and the game executes the code to kill you. Once you've done exactly what the game wants, you get this. Congratulations, you may have just won. Take a photograph of the screen and send it to the address listed in the rules and regulations. Your personal code. Guess what? The code is the same on every cartridge. It's fucking painted on. That's still not it, because the message doesn't even appear on Revision B at all. Nobody ever got any kind of response for sending this in, and most cartridges would just crash if you attempted anyway. Without save states, this game is near impossible to beat unless you practice for a long time and memorize the whole thing. This was just a marketing scam to attempt and sell more copies of the game. Activision didn't necessarily even have the money. I can't even believe I'm calling this a game. Most Atari 2600 games were far more complicated and, more importantly, a blast. This game has an unused level and you can access it with Game Genie. It has a 1-up that does nothing and the same falling noses. Ooze. More like booze before I blow my fuse and tie a noose. Fucking pathetic. Silver Sword. Mutants in the forest. And the must be fought off. All sides are open, but they give you a clue to move up by placing you at the bottom facing up. So good for them. The protagonist just looks like some asshole with a bowl cut who has a face hugger attached to their head. Here come the swords. You ready? Right out of your terminal. There's no throwing animation, no nothing. The sword just appears. Does this look familiar? The cake. The boss AI is now used for normal enemies, and now they can shoot. So then, that means that the enemies don't even realize you're there, apart from the shots. They just move the random directions with a random travel time and random intentions. Really makes you feel like everything matters. The enemies move so fast that there's little to no value in shooting them, so it's wise to just keep moving up. Jesus! Again, no diagonal movement, so this will get awkward as hell trying to maneuver through these meaningless obstacles. I'm not even trying to make jokes, this is hideous. I can't come up with anything even remotely as funny as this attempt at making a game. Still better mutants than Bart vs the Space Mutants. Huge caterpillars and eyeballs. When you come across this stone wall, level 2 starts. So it's almost like they tried to make a transition. It should be noted that you can take a few hits but the health bar isn't showing up. It's probably coded in because it shows up in other games, but some sort of error is causing it to malfunction. I've never seen a health bar when the hit points are something else than 4, so maybe that's it. The main problem with this is that pretty much the only thing you can do is go up and keep shooting and hope that the sword lands in an enemy before it hits you. There is little to no time to react to anything. You're far too up the screen and you have a one-shot limit. Why in the hell did they allow the player to go so high up before the screen moved? If this is something you don't understand as a developer, you need to start checking out other job offers and figure out if you're good at something else. Thinking isn't your strong suit. And what would Silver Sword be without some horseshit hitboxes? Look at how much room. You could fit 2 pregnant elephants through that hole and a baguette, yet our friend Mo can't seem to make it. Ah! My god. Trying to make this and fit the exactly sized person through these rocks while a bunch of Dr. Pep at the loading seam at the top, and it just looks like some kindergartner's first project. The loading seam has the screen information from the bottom of the screen. The same loading seam happens in Super Mario Bros. 3, for example, on the right side. No developers really bothered to fix it because the old CRT televisions didn't show the effect anyway due to screen curvature. Not like these fellows would have even thought about fixing something like this. Good old S. Yep. Once you get lucky for long enough, the game is over after level 3. Congratulations, you just wasted your time. Critical bypass. You have got to land with your valuable cargo, but the intense gravitational pull on this planet is treacherous. You must initiate landing procedures, defeat this gravity problem, and save your cargo. Critical bypass. Unless we are the planet, there really is no gravitational pull. Every damn rock homes on us though, so I'll just assume we are the planet and we have the cargo. Talk about a busy background. If the Americans landed on the moon and this is what was waiting for them, they would have all gotten epileptic seizures. I can't even look at this. Looks like the cartridge is glitching out. Do I have to blow in the cartridge?
Yeah, that's bad for the game. The condensation.
It's a joke, alright. Good news first. Didn't I already... I already told you about some bad aspects. You can shoot in all directions. Bad news is that you shoot in the direction you last moved. So in order to shoot up, you have to move up and not touch the D-pad after. Again, we have these bathroom tiles, but in this game they actually hurt you. They look like solar panels. Your other obstacle are these meteors. They spawn in from a random spot around the edge, so sometimes they spawn behind you and immediately get despawned by the moving screen. This is what fun looks like. This music, Fantastic. If you have paid any attention, you'll figure out the easiest way to pass the game. Stay in the lower left corner and wait for the meteors to get despawned. They curve a bit when they follow you, so naturally they go past the edge and disappear. If they come from the right side, just make a small square movement to lure them to curve a bit and go back to the corner. Sometimes nothing is going on because the screen is full of these stationary assholes, preventing more meteors from spawning. Yep, that's the sprite limit for you. To beat the level, you're supposed to go inside this box that transitions you out. Holy shit, an actual objective. As per tradition, once you start a new level, you're instantly swarmed by enemies. I'm not sure if I mentioned this already, but this happens because the screen is empty as you start the level, so the code quickly calls in enemies in to fill the void. The problem is that you don't get any time to relax and prepare for the next round. You have to already hold a direction to dodge these enemies. If the level started with these stationary enemies in place, meteors wouldn't attack you like this, since the screen would already be full of enemies because of the sprite limit we talked about earlier. So yet another problem with the limit they injected into most of the games. Guess what happens next? Have a fucking guess. The meteors get faster. Whoop-de-doo. Now, you really have to pay attention and lure them around the screen, it's almost frame perfect now. Try doing this with the actual system with no save stating, you'll be here for hours. In fact, most of the games in the cartridge become near impossible to beat when you beat a few levels.
Son of a shit!
Level 1 again. We beat it. All of these games are practically the same, there's like 3 variations of games that use the same stretch of code and that's it. It's like one of those 20,000 games in one, then you find out that every 5th game is just the next speed level of Tetris. Now the background is glitching up too. Literally up. Critical bypass.
It's critical that we bypass this game.
Okay, calm down, nerd. No need to get hostile. Jupiter's scope. At first we saw 1 or 2 fall and thought nothing of it, never thinking it could result in a meteor shower. Using the star zap laser, we shoot them out of the sky before they collide with things, but the meteor shower gets more intense. Can I just say that this is one of the more innocent looking games on the cartridge, but if you only knew how long this game is. The background is static and you move around the screen like a mouse cursor. The only thing that ever happens is these flaming pig rectums come flying down and you shoot them. The levels only advance once you kill a set number of enemies. Hold down turbo or shoot too much and nothing spawns as usual. That means you really have to wait for an enemy to appear and then shoot it. You're way too slow for this task though, and as the levels progress, enemies get faster. At that point, it's almost impossible to reach some of the enemies in time. They pretty much have to be in your line of fire so you have a chance. One enemy is worth 100 points, and guess how many points you need to beat the game? Have a guess. Well, about 30,000 to 40,000, depends how much you died. Motherfucker, that's 310 enemies you have to kill. Yes, I counted. And it can take 20 seconds up to a minute to kill one if they come down from bad spots you can't reach in time. So let's say it takes 25 seconds in average to kill one. It would take you well over 2.5 hours to beat the game. I found a speedrunner that did this in just over 23 minutes, but he got extremely lucky with the enemy positions. Also, who the fuck speedrun? Oh my god, the music is still going, it's like who the hell has died? Whose funeral am I at? Is it mine? Because I'd like to wake up from the dead just so I could kill myself.
Yeah, you didn't evaluate the game.
Look at it! There's nothing to evaluate. It's like shoving a sparkler in my dick hole. Yes, it's there now, sparkling. Fuck me blind. Aye! I actually slapped my face. Alfredo and the misspelled fettuccinis. The pasta has gotten out of control. You've got to raise the clock and get the spaghetti, linguine, and other pasta back into the pot where it belongs. Alfred and the The pasta people. Fettuccine, ravioli, one hit and your neck snaps. That has got to be the best death animation of the entire library of games. What is this guy's problem anyway? Looks like he skinned Bugs Bunny and made a costume of him or something. Honestly though, this game doesn't look too bad for an early NES game. Too bad they put you too far to the right again, so you can barely react to anything that's about to come your way. You either learn when the enemies are gonna come and press the attack button before they even spawn, or you just get lucky a lot. Like with the previous games, moderate falls will kill you here as well, but this time you can stop the code from counting down the timer. If you attack mid-air, your position is reset and the kill timer starts from the beginning. This way you can make bigger jumps and survive. If you think about it, these games are all about beating the broken code and finding ways to disable or circumvent certain phrases. I like how you can go inside scenery, like these games don't have enough problems as it is. The ground isn't even made up of one solid block, it's multiple passable layers of garbage. See how the enemies seem to kinda drag and move in weird ways as the screen scrolls. It's like they're being dragged under a different timing interval than the screen. That's the problem I explained previously, but this still isn't a good example of a game to showcase the problem with that. If you had a weapon with bullets, I could show you later though. I'd like to remind you that everything I've talked about, or at least most things, are still apparent here, all the way from the weird jump mechanics to the hitboxes, never forget those, because I'm not going to repeat myself on every game. Just know those aspects exist. Well, at least the enemies actually get squashed. Cum smoke! Is this supposed to be pasta or a fucking condom wrapper? Ah, my eyes! The goggles do nothing! Why did they change the ceiling lamps to these huge versions now? As per tradition, the enemies are now faster! Jesus on a pogo stick. After an excruciating level 3, we're finally done. The developers made most of these games near impossible to beat without cheating, just so people wouldn't see much of them, or see how short they really were. Smart, or incredibly ignorant. Operation Full Moon. Mission: Assault Luna Base 1. Drive your dune buggy through the enemy territory, destroying all terrible occupants and establishments. Better look around real good and leave no moonstone unturned. Terrible establishments. Alright, here I come. Terrible establishments, fuck off. Wow, our bullets are colored like the black pixels on the grass. I love this. I also love the fact that if we keep firing, the enemies can't fire. Sprite limits? Yes. Oh well, they can only shoot to the sides anyway. I guess they're supposed to be cannons, but they just ended up looking like wangs. The placements aren't even really thought out, some cannons don't even fire at the side you go past. Eek! The darker grass makes us explode. Riveting. And this dune buggy looks like someone is constantly flashing their ass crack at us. Now the grass is blue. It must mean we're in a new stage. Nothing ever changes in this game except the colors. Green, blue, orange, yellow, greener green, purple, pink, lighter blue. Touch the buildings, everything is faster now, yada yada. This is so slow! 80% of the time you're just slowly going up with nothing to shoot at. Lucky for us, when you hit this threshold, the game crashes. I don't even care, it could just say level 1 and repeat, but when it crashes, at least it kind of feels like closure. That was 8 levels of human soil, and it's not like every level has progression, they just repeat the same 3 or 4 sections over and over. What, you think you can just change the color and nobody would notice? What is this, made for people who don't vaccinate their kids? Dam busters. They are destroying everything, and the only way to save the wildlife is to break the dam and let the water free. You're Winnie the Pooh, suffering from hematemesis, just like everyone else in the game. No damage indicators, no health bar, get hit a few times and you're dead. The same boss AI is used on the enemies, so all they do is swap directions after a random amount of time has passed. Some of the enemies are stationary, so the same stationary object code is used here again. They also ignore the scenery and spawn inside walls. What is their obsession of putting you so close to the edge of the screen, and it's always the way of travel? It cuts down the reaction time by at least 50%. If we're moving right, position the character to the far left, or at least near the center. There is a new anomaly here though. Watch what happens when we shoot and then move. The shot gets tracked by the actual screen movement. Something like this also happened in Paperboy, but in that game it almost felt like it was done like that in purpose, so you could still steer the papers in the air. This just makes it worse. The shots are so fast that moving them deliberately is almost out of the question. And again, to shoot in different directions, you first have to face that way. The screen gets locked to whatever horizontal position it's at when you go forward, so there's really no way to move back. Brilliant. Now I have to either reset the game or get killed. Was it so hard to add a path for both sides? Our movement is so limited, yet the level has these zigzags where you need precise control, and they make you shoot enemies while doing this too. Great hitboxes, by the way. A 1-up. It doesn't actually give you a 1-up though. There is no sound or code attached. Oh my! Oh, randomly stage 2. How am I not surprised? And why are our shots the exact same as the enemies? Could I at least colored them differently? Can't tell which of these are mine. Since the game is using the boss AI code, the enemies can't really navigate through the mazes. They only get through them by luck. The only hazard you have are the homing shots, and sometimes the enemies spawn right next to you and hit you. Why are all of these paths open? There's nothing there. Okay. Oh. Thrusters. You have right and left thrusters. Hit full speed and use laser cannons to avoid the alien invasions in the galaxy. Oh. We've already seen this game. Why would I discuss this twice? I'm sorry, what? Oh. They put in black borders. Well, time to start shooting so nothing spawns. Level 2. Cuckold! Why does this keep happening? Holy shit. Ovaries, speculums, limp dicks. It's different now. Some of them started shooting bullets that are slower than their move speed. Seems familiar. You can barely even see them before it's too late, so hold down fire and never let go. It's blue. Oh, no health bar again, but we do have a few hit points. Our hitbox is essentially only the orange part, so that's cool. There's literally nothing new here to evaluate, I'm sorry. It's literally... there's nothing. Haunted hills of Wentworth. Ghosts and ghoulies are running loose in the cemetery. Get them all back to where they belong and end the chaos in the halls of Wentworth. What? Haunted hill? Haunted hall? Haunted hills? Hank Hill? All the same. They give you 2 good reasons to like this game. Unfortunately, we're out of the shit and into the fuck. Your weapon of choice? The cross. 1-shot limit, maximum of 2 enemies on the screen, and you're still going to have problems. If you predict wrong and miss, you're basically just dead. This game makes you do all kinds of maneuvers to dodge the enemies. Dare I say, they might have accidentally created something that resembles a game. This is one of the better games of the bunch. Don't be fooled here, the spikes or whatever the fuck these are supposed to be didn't actually kill us, it's the fall height again. Whoa! Look at this skull! Doesn't this look pretty good? All 3 of the college fellows were given $1,500 in advance, and if I had to guess, this skull was their first creation. After that, it was all downhill. Downhole. It honestly looks pretty nice. There was also some fellow in a robe, looks pretty cute too, but it was never used in the game. The chain in theory is a nice obstacle, but it just needed to look more like an actual hazard. Color it differently from the ceiling at least. And here's the hitboxes. Good. I have an explanation to this, however. During my research I found out that the hitboxes are like this because they fucked up. God damn. Oh my. Actual insta-kill objects. This proves that it could have been done for all of the games, they just didn't bother to copy-paste the code over. And what is this? An actual boss fight. I like how the boss's legs are black in a black background. The game is just full of these amateur mistakes that any sane person would fix when they saw that. I guess 52 games in 3 months makes a toll on you. Usually just one NES game took at least 3 months to make. Well, how does this work? Just simple timers. Count, move down. Count, move up. Repeat. This time they coded the shots separately from other games. Why? Because if these were homing shots, you couldn't dodge them. I like how suddenly they have empathy for the player. Like they want you to beat the game. So rather than make the shots follow you, they just fly diagonally to the bottom left from the boss and never seem to reach us. So they are practically useless. Seems like they only had two choices, useless shots or impossible shots. Good pick here though, guys. When you hit the spider, it doesn't make any sound, you get no feedback. At first I thought you have to hit his ass, because it's a huge purple part of it, but no, you can hit the sprite anywhere to deal damage. It just takes about 50 fucking shots. And this fight takes like 5 minutes and it doesn't even deserve to. There is no challenge here. Suka, bliat. They're trying to lure us into jumping from the top, but the descent would kill us. You're not gonna fool me. The chain! Ah, shut! Get used to these spiders, because it's now a thing. Oh my god. Suck my duck. Eek! The rest of the game is just pixel perfect maneuvering, while simultaneously watching for your jumping and landing. Once you've cheated for a long time, you get to the next spider. It's the same as the first. Ayada. Now there's green, and more ghosts. Some of these patterns require frame-perfect moves. One wrong input, and you kick the bucket. And this happens all the fucking time. Try beating this game without save states or cheats. I can guarantee you'll be trying 2 months in. Oh, come on! The last spider is on the same spot as the last two, and because the ground is higher now, the other cycle is impossible to hit. The developers realized this and made this brick block for you to exit the stage instead. We need this block for every game. For the first screen, please. Chill out. Old Man Winter is at the top and he's... Old Man Winter is at the top and is your goal. But it keeps snowing and he's blowing. I mean, whatever you gotta do to make money. You must reach the top before you get snowed under. This is basically the same game as Illuminator, except the lights don't go out. What's with the characters always looking like fucking mongoloids? Well, it's all here. Everything we've discussed so far is present. Do the exact same thing you did on Illuminator and you're done. Stationary enemies are stationary this time though, so no enemies seem to have such a little walking cycle that they would just notch back and forth. Oh, for fuck's sake. 5 levels of this and it's all over. It just seems like it's a lot easier to die in this because of the level layouts are much more cramped. Add fast moving mongs and you got yourself a gay old time. Sharks. You are a frogman and must collect rare marine creatures and recover lost treasures at the bottom of the sea. You have your stun gun and can always retreat into your electromagnetic base that repels sharks and the rest of the enemies. Your diving suit can only survive a few shark bites and is useless against the deadly jellyfish. Hello? Fear the frogman. Get fucked. It's basically Jupiter scope, just swapped horizontally and enemies coming from both sides. Your projectiles are so slow, it's a pain to try and kill something that went past you. And it's too hard to shoot them when they're coming at you, because there's not much time to react. Oh my god. Just like with Jupiter scope, it's running on triggers. Kill a certain amount of sharks and advance to the next level. After a couple of hours, there's something new. Jellyfish. They come in with the same boss AI, do a couple of turns and then disappear at the other edge. The time you have to shoot these is a few seconds, so if you miss, prepare to wait another few minutes for a new one to spawn. This is extremely infuriating, I can't even begin to tell you. Just look at this. Imagine playing this on your free time. Do you fucking hate yourself? Uh-oh, white sharks. And my batteries died on my controller. Well, guess what? I literally walked to go get new batteries, took the old ones out, put the new ones in, closed the battery cover, and I didn't take a single hit in 2 minutes. Unless we plan on wasting the same amount of time as in Jupiter's Scope, I say we move on. Unless you want to keep getting pummeled by cock. And yes, I did research, nothing changes. The enemies get faster, no. Megalonia. She comes out of nowhere with her evil armies. You must defend against the wave after wave, wave after wave, something, wave after wave of enemies, and they will attack you until only the Empress machine Megalonia remains. It's the same game as G-Force Fighters. This time there is no ceiling, so you can just hug the top of the screen and wait till the game is over. We do have an interesting oddity though. Remember how in Star Evil, if you shot too many bullets, you'd wipe out the boss? Usually the bosses in this game have a ridiculous amount of hit points and it takes like an hour to fucking kill them. Unless you align yourself correctly, you'll die, so be careful. And yes, it's the same AI again, what did you expect? The Spanish Inquisition? Well, now we're confined into this small space, but the enemies still appear the same way, so naturally they now come through the scenery. Oh me yeetlers, I have to fight the boss like this? You have no idea how difficult this is. If it wasn't for the slowly moving bullets, this would actually be possible. Good. Different colors. What? Suddenly we're in a completely different level. Surprise, motherfucker! And we're done here. The French baker. You may try to keep the cookie patterns pounding and the bread rising, but it's not as easy as it sounds. Yet another straight up clone of Illuminator. Because of the layouts though, it's now much easier to just hang on to a ladder and keep throwing your rolling pins at them. Everything is the same, and the same strategy works. Stay on one level until nothing spawns and clear the rest. Jesus Christ. This will happen a lot, by the way, and it looks like the enemies have bigger hitboxes than it seems. They just walk over these gaps, how was I supposed to anticipate that? Turns out the enemies just float on the playfield, they're not actually walking on anything, thus they can't fall. I don't even get what these enemies are supposed to represent. 4 levels this time. Can't wait for the next iteration of Illuminator. There was an unused title screen for this game as well. Wow, really descriptive. Also, for some unknown reason, the code for the French baker was inserted twice into the ROM. The other code is an earlier version of the game. You can access it with a hex editor, but the game tends to crash a lot. Atmos-Quake. The legions of space pirates are causing solar flares and sending shock waves to destroy your planet. You must fly in and arrest them all. It's another Star Evil, except you fly around as a Star Trek logo. Do note that the triangles don't hurt you on the sides, just decoration. Main difference here is that there are no bosses, the levels just end. Sprites have been swapped and that's pretty much it. The issue is that some of the later levels get cramped as hell, and with these kind of hitboxes, you'll take it up the ass a time or two. Look at this! You can't even squeeze a normal sized dick through that. Level 5 is completely broken. I don't think it was never even designed, some kind of a layout was put in, but that was it. It looks like it's another level of the earlier 4, because you just die randomly. The walls and obstacles are there for you to die on, but nothing on the screen makes sense. Even with save states, I couldn't go very far. There is a trigger here somewhere though, to make it loop back to level 1. I'll give you one guess as to where it is. At the end of the stage? No. In the middle? No. Sides? No. Alright, right as the level starts, immediately move down and touch the bottom of the screen. Congratulations, you beat the game. They most likely just put the ending there so that they could test that it works and that it takes you out, but they never went back and redesigned the last level. I guess they forgot. Kinda how I forgot the name of the game. Meong. Board game of strategy and skill. Try to get places from starting line to goal. Watch out for hidden traps. Harder than it sounds. Harder than it sounds. Meong. Meong. That doesn't sound hard. Sounds like you're trying to talk Japanese to your cat. Meong. Great music. The general thought people have had about this game is that you move up and randomly you get killed by nothing, so it's like a guessing game. That's not really true, but what I'm about to show you is not really going to make a difference either. So, you're supposed to watch out for hidden traps like the manual says. And please, take it literally. You're supposed to stop every once in a while to look for which squares turn and drop you down. Only by waiting can you see the deadly blocks. Not a lot of people knew about this because your gut instinct tells you to go up fast and then that's how you just get killed. They should have made it so that these trapdoors actually dropped you down, add an animation and all that. Now you just explode, which doesn't make any sense. So, wait and look for the trapdoors. What? Fuck me, try. They ask you to wait to see the trapdoors, but waiting kills you. That's right, if you're in the same block for too long, you get killed. So the only sane thing left to do is wait to see the trap squares, but also move back and forth so the invisible trigger timer doesn't kill you. This is fun. Holy fuck. I guess it would be really easy otherwise to just just go one by one and wait to see the deadly blocks, but let me ask you, was this whole game a good idea in the first place? Maybe this game doesn't need to exist. I'm just saying. The small Action 52 logo actually looks pretty good, but why in the name of my name is it the character we move? It's like a board game that uses its own logo as the movable piece. I mean, can you stop sucking your own dick for 52 seconds? And the way you move, oh boy. You have to keep tapping the direction. My thumb got tired after 15 seconds of this. And it goes on and on and on. It's worse than tapping away in Silver Surfer, because it's my left thumb and not my right. And it's the D-pad instead of a single button. Reach the top and the next level begins. Classic. On some levels the trapdoors are bombs. It makes no real difference, except these are much easier to see, so all of the challenge is pretty much gone. It seems like some stages aren't properly showing the bombs and that's why they stay solid for so long, but no, it's actually coded that way, believe it or not. You are supposed to wait, but not wait. But not move too fast. It's like a Spanish lady telling a Swedish guy how to drive a car. 4 levels of this. 4. The hell is happening at the bottom? Why are the previous levels spawning there? This I have no answer to. Maybe the game is trying to kill itself. Only thing I can think of is what I said earlier, the levels aren't actually reset, but rather the board is wiped and then a new level transition occurs. So all of the game's code at this point is still running in the background. Would certainly make sense here. Somehow it's still trying to call back something from the previous levels. Space dreams. There is a black hole and on the other side are all your space dreams. You must get past all of the obstacles to enter the hole and realize your dreams. Realize your dreams. You're a baby. You dream of scary fucking dolls, teddy bears made of bread dough, rattles, cubes, and then you just wake up and realize your dreams. The baby now possesses clarity and is ready to take the next step in becoming the better version of themselves. This music sounds a lot like the DuckTales Moon theme in certain parts. A pacifier, shooting stars, no, you don't get killed by these bright objects, they're just part of the background. And that's pretty much the game. Nothing to see. You stay still and keep shooting, nothing ever gets you. Enemies are again randomly spawned from the top, so you're technically not safe anywhere. Take out walls, bosses and obstacles from Star Evil and you got space dreams. 12 stages this time, and when you only have one shot on the screen at once, I'd urge to make your mark or you're dead. Streemerz. Try climbing to the top of this one. What? Try climbing to the top of this one by throwing steamers and climbing them. On your throwing steamers. On your way up, you better watch out for the various pie-throwing clowns, burning candles and bouncing balls, because if they get you, you'll die a little each time. I die a little each time I have to look at another game. You're some kind of a mouse that has syphilis. Okay, I made that up just to lighten the mood. I doubt the mouse had unprotected sex. You would easily notice the terrible itch that in its core, Streemerz is a lot like Bionic Commando, if it was made by an inanimate carbon rod. You shoot out a string, and when the string touches a platform, you move up with it. Just like Bionic Commando, you have no jump. You can also fire the string around the screen, because the only prevention that you would wrap the character around the screen is an invisible wall. Otherwise you could just walk to the right and come back from the left, but obviously for this game that needed to be disabled. Just like the devil. Essentially it's just a copy-paste of an existing game's code. But some games have invisible barriers around the screen and some don't. Hence the string is still able to go through, but we get stuck at the edge. They prevented cheating. Bravo! Here's my #1 Nintendo gamers tip for this game. Don't touch it. Clowns, don't touch them. Magic wands, don't touch them. Money bags, don't touch them. Rabbit in a top hat, you can touch it, it's just for decoration. What are you, fucking stupid? Obviously this face means it's bad. You did a bad thing. Go figure. Rather than coding some kind of a currency system, one-up system that could have been borrowed from other games, Hilltops, they decided to just put in all of these assets and make them all cause damage. Again, invisible health bar, but you do eventually die. To everything. Oh nice, money. The game teaches you a handful of lessons. Don't be greedy, don't let clowns touch you, and most importantly, don't shove magic wands up you. Sometimes the platforms are spread out awfully. The way you advance makes the game push you up in a certain way, so you constantly have to reorient yourself to keep going up. Near the edges of platforms, the string doesn't work at all because the hitbox of the platform ends before the sprite ends. Nice. Sometimes the objects are just laid out in front of you, and there is no way to get past them, so you have to take damage. This just emphasizes the fact that these were supposed to be collectibles and power-ups. So if you took too much damage prior, this wand here would just end your run. Where's the invisible block to end the stage? Yeah. Get fucked level! It's so obvious that they constructed these levels without keeping the so-called physics in mind. Look at this for example, what a pain in the dick. Such a warm feeling to see enemy AI recycled from other games. Like Illuminator placements, what else could they mess up? Is the TV going to hang itself? Fuck me. Level 4 was the last one. We're out. I kinda enjoyed that in a very dark, sadistic, melancholic, morose way. I feel like drinking blood and sacrificing virgins. Come here, nightgown mouse. Let's do it like they do it in Discovery. Spread fire. You may have some great weapons. In fact, the best. You will need them to fight off the tremendous enemies that seem to multiply. Alright, what is this? Don't make a vulva choke, don't make a vulva choke, don't make a vulva choke. We control an excited pussy that swims in oil. Fuck, guess what? It's Jupiter's scope. Except the enemies have the boss AI. I like how I can just say the boss AI, and you know what I mean. For some reason, for these enemies, they forgot to add a hitbox. Yep. Same code is still triggered. No music either, it's like I'm in limbo. Your biggest problem is going to be preventing the enemies from coming down to your level. If that happens, they can just ram into you since you can only shoot up. Levels go by, enemies get faster, dick gets hard. Shit, course, my lad! Look how fast this is. Luckily, I developed a strategy. Wait for an enemy to spawn, then immediately start shooting to exceed the sprite limit, so you only have one enemy to kill at a time. If you let multiple of them spawn, you're roadkill. Guess how many levels? Just have a guess. Give me a number between 0 and 50. How many levels do you think are on this? You ready? This game is near impossible, and can you even fathom the idea of dodging and perfectly hitting shit for 18 levels? At the end, the enemies move so fast we can finally discuss one of the biggest problems that is evident in most of these games that have moving objects. It's hard to explain, but let's try. So usually when you think of a side-scroller, you think how fluid the movement is. In most cases, the character can move pixel perfect if you're just precise with your inputs. Same for the enemies. Well animated and designed, they can easily behave in a realistic way. More the frames, better the outcome. In most cases anyway. I don't quite understand how they made this particular segment in the code, but it seems like the way the sprites move, especially enemies, they are either being dragged along by the screen, or they move on their own, but they don't actually move as in the object itself isn't advancing in time, but rather it looks as if the object is being assigned a new point every time they are supposed to move. So, let's say this ship is going to move left for a while. Instead of telling it to move from point A to point B, my guess is that they didn't exactly know how to do that, so instead it moves from point A to a new point A to a new point A, until the randomizer just randomizes a new direction. So every time it's moved, it has a chance that it will turn. It does look like there is a minimum amount it will move every time, at least in certain games such as this one, otherwise it could literally change direction after every point, making it do spirals and other crazy shit. Another problem with this point-to-point movement is that the sprite isn't dragging itself, but it's assigned a new location, what seems like every now and then, leaving a few frames dead while it's doing its thing. This is the core of the problem. Because this happens, it means that enemies can sometimes just pass through you, or you can easily just shoot through them, because there's literal dead air. From point A to another point A, there is a time when the sprite doesn't really exist in any kind of space, as it's still transitioning. Long story short, make your sprites actually move. Don't make them appear, then disappear, then appear again in another spot, and it looks like it moves, but it doesn't. It's just being assigned new locations. This was the issue I mentioned a couple of times with the other games, so the more you know. Doesn't it seem like the way they did it was far more difficult to do than the obvious method? I've heard it was hard as shit to code games for the NES, and if all they had was 3 months for 52 games, I'm not even surprised. They went with the first thing that sort of worked. Bubblegum Rosie. Rosie is looking for her gum, but so are a lot of other gum-starved critters. Help her get her gum back, but be careful the critters don't get you first. Didn't it just say the critters are looking for gum, not a little girl? Gum starved. You do realize you don't eat gum, you chew gum. Most critters don't even have teeth. Bubblegum Rosie. Whoa! That's it. We took a hit on our invisible health bar. Now we can only take X amount of damage. Spikes ought to kill us at least. They forgot to. Okay, this is getting old. Unlike Rosie. Too old for me. My god. I don't even get the joke. I never got that. What does it mean? It's like too old for me. What the fuck does that? How is that even? Gotta get me a new script writer for this. I mean, this is not the comedy club. What does it mean? There is one stationary object. Shoot it. Shot it. Got him. They didn't make it possible to shoot these springy motherfuckers. The only thing you can do is jump over or go under. You can take one hit, but if you take another, you die. Also, there's no tell if you took damage. Enemies just disappear when you collide into them. No sound, no nothing. As you might have noticed, the enemies get dragged when the screen moves. The enemies are just placed into the scene and they're not actually interacting with the ground at all. Hence why they also go inside the scenery. There's no collision. These balls that come from the right rolling in also just hover in the air. It looks like they just roll on the ground, but it's just placed to look like it. But hey, at least there's animation for your attack. Rosie is looking for her gum, but she sure as hell can fire a million gumballs out of her mouth. Sweet baby Jesus, hold me. What's wrong with the controls? What's wrong? I already explained the controls. They're the same for almost every game, and Bubblegum Rosie is no different. See? I've come to learn how to dodge the immediate blockages when starting a stage. I had no idea this game had a driving stage. Look at this. There's gumballs all over the level, except they kill you. Yeah. The shit is this? The boss AI! It's not like we haven't played this exact same game 5 times already, I mean, completely original. You fucking wish. Son of a bitch, I'll shove this bubblegum so far up her ass, she'll have another reason to shit on it. Thanks for that quote, Philip. Look, a bunch of great ideas. Let's now have the boss AI in a side-scroller. That makes it fucking easy to anticipate. The noses from Ooze, but now they actually look like Ooze. The fuck's Ooze? They also didn't color her eyes in, so they just changed depending on the background. She looks so dead. Look at her. How in the world's biggest shit am I supposed to make this without saving the state every 2 seconds? They try to fool us again. I'm not going to jump from one platform to another. I know better. Sprites changed. That indicates that they changed the sprites now. Does the game behave differently? Is there a new challenge to be learned? Guess 3 times. Good answer. It should be noted that there is an unused level. Level 4, a driving stage. Why should it be noted? I don't fucking know, it wasn't used. Who cares? Micro Mike. He's only the size of a flea, and it's difficult getting from her... It's difficult getting from her to there. They can't... These people were Americans! It's their first language! What the fuck? He's only the size of a flea. And it's difficult getting from her to there when you're smaller than the strand of hair. Never mentioned before. It seems like you're in the land of the giants. Let's check how many fucking mistakes are in this. He is only the size of a flea. Okay, that's good. Comma and. That's a strike. And it is difficult getting from her. Getting from her? Getting out of a woman? Getting from her. So getting from inside a woman to there. So somebody's when you're what? You're smaller? You're, not you are. You're smaller than the strand of hair which wasn't mentioned before, so it should be a strand of hair. It seems like you're, not you are, but you're in the land of the giants. I didn't even write this in the script, but I'm just baffled. They were Americans. It was their first language, and this is the real manual. It exists. What the fuck is your education? The object of the game is to not eat your controller out of frustration. Micro Mike. More like Dick Boy Fathead. Time to throw my pencil at this game. Seriously though, it's something relatively new. The screen moves twice the speed of some of the other games, and your goal is to avoid these upcoming walls. If you only get hit a little, Mike gets dragged a bit more. If you only get hit a little, Mike gets dragged a bit more to the left each time. When you're pushed too far, it's going to make it so that the next dodge becomes impossible to make. You need to be near frame perfect and not get tracked, but maybe once in the entire stage, otherwise you run out of room. Enemies are placed without any thought put behind it. They're in your way, out of your way, just everywhere randomly. You can shoot, but your shots are so slow it barely matters. As per tradition, miss once and you can say goodbye to Max Face Oven Boy. Please note, these small balls coming at you slowly, these are important for later. Why is the whole playing field glitching? I really wanted to know the answer to this. Some games just keep bumping the 2 bottom rows up randomly and it would wrap back down from the top. If someone knows why this happens, let me know. I think sometimes code is ran in these areas because it doesn't show up on an old TV, so nobody bothered to hide it, but my god, why is it so prominent at times? The whole screen is having a seizure. If I had to guess, ugly code. Ah! Random blue lines! Guess my hunch was pretty good. They didn't have the courtesy to make new AI for these enemies. Surprised to see the boss AI once again. Obviously, when you design something, you're supposed to design things around each other, not just copy-paste one mechanic over to a completely different area. It's like only having urinals for women's bathrooms just because men have it just fine. Well, it is 2019. Then there's the boss. This time it's the spider boss AI from Haunted Halls or Hills or whatever the fuck, but with an added line of code. It can now also move left, then back right, but it can't freely move around the screen. It can only move up and down at the very far right. The vertical travel length is also a bit longer, and now it doesn't shoot spiders or anything else for that matter. Remember those small balls we saw in the stage? They're back, and they spawn from here. That's pretty close to us. Have fun, you dickhead. I've said it 1,000 times, but if you miss, consider yourself done. You're trying to kill the boss, but also protect yourself at the same time. This is ridiculous. I could make a 50-page essay about this. It doesn't help that the small balls are actually big rectangles. What is this, though? You hear that? There's an actual sound cue when you hit the... Well, it kinda looks like someone is bending over and getting a foot long up their ass. Interesting idea for a boss, very brave. After 50 or so shots, it's level 2. And let me make sure you understand. Doing that boss without any save states on the actual cartridge, on the actual console, is easily considered impossible. There is no way you can beat that unless you get extremely lucky, predict in advance and just familiarize yourself with the fight. Yes, it can theoretically be done, but it's so difficult I'd just consider it impossible. Back to level 2, it's more of the same. Come on, don't act surprised. And what the hell is this Slim Daddy fat leg supposed to be anyway? What is this? What is it? What is it? It looks like a fat man cut in half riding a rocket. Where do you come up with this? No matter how many lines I snort, I could never picture this exact thing in my head. Not even my worst nightmares. I've never seen anything like this. Like, how many mushrooms do you have to eat? They really don't want you to beat this game. I have to lead this ball so I can shoot it. If I just stay up here. Can't get to the line of fire I need, and I still have a whole fucking boss to kill. I can land one shot at the boss and then kill another 23 balls. Then one shot at the boss, maybe even miss, repeat, do it again, rinse, my nuts, go again, save state. After a few hours, we're greeted with level 3. Don't worry, this is it. You got spikes now, but it's not really different from the walls prior. You don't get insta-killed or nothing. It's just a graphic they chose. Here, you have to know what to do. You absolutely need to. If you don't nail this whole level by the second, you're dead. Sometimes you have to shoot in advance, other times it's just about alignment and choosing your next kill. One fraction of a second gone wrong and you're toast. No human could ever go through this. Again, it's possible, but that doesn't mean it's doable. You need emulator tools for this. It's criminal. Why are some of these games made impossible to beat? To add insult to injury, the last boss has the same AI, but your movement is now limited to this one section. Holy shit. If it was a matter of a second before, now we're talking frames. Imagine doing a frame or two wrong and game overing to this. It's not like I had any expectations, it's a fat fellow riding a dick in a turbo tunnel, sign me up crackheads. Even the unused tiles are telling us to fuck off. There are literally tiles in the ROM saying ha ha. Micro Mike. I get it. I don't get it. Underground. Tunnel this way and that in order to find the gold. Be careful of the other strange creatures you find here. Other strange creatures? You're implying that we're a creature, or did you just forget to tell us about the main creatures? In any case, we're a black fellow who got dumped into an underground tunnel system. Literally dumped. Is this okay? I mean, it was 1991. Can I even show this? It's probably fine. Anyway, you're a black fellow killing a herd of ugly fucking reds. Those enemies look like your stereotypical Chinese people heads. Better not to look at it in too much detail. Whew! Touch the mushrooms and you turn over like a second hand on a clock. Drop 100 meters, you're fine. Touch a mushroom with your toe, dead as shit. Good teaching element, don't touch anything yellow. What's my goal? Even if I made it up there, there's nothing there. I'm glad they utilized the Illuminator code here. It looks so easy to just get up there. Oh my goodness. I suppose we do the same thing we do on each one of these one-screen platformers. We kill enough enemies and the level is beaten. Well, I've been here for half an hour and the enemies just keep on coming, and without some careful save stating and trial and error, this would be impossible. How many times have I said the word impossible during this episode? Like 1,000,000 times. But it perfectly explains the situation. It is impossible. What the hell do you ask of me? I've been here for... Are you kidding me? There was another one of those invisible exit blocks up there. How was I supposed to know that? There are no instructions, no teaching elements, no nothing. If I've done the same thing over and over for 20 games now, and suddenly it changes up, how would I know? Okay, well, the rest of the game, once you know how to walk to the other side, is really easy. You just walk there. Unless you decide to check why they would put mushrooms in a dead end where nobody would go in the first place. And you can grab the ladders even if you only touch them by 1 pixel of your body. It's always so nice being treated like an idiot. The finish is technically right next to me, but I have to walk all around just to get to it. And because the ladders are actually just background objects, it looks like they wanted to block some of these routes, but you can just go through there and grab the ladder because there's nothing obstructing you. You can just grab this ladder because it's a background object. The wall isn't actually a wall, it's just painted on. What the Christ? Look at this purple bird. It's like pecking the ground, but with the back of his skull? Or it's a black man wearing a hoodie? Ah, schnitz. Of course you shoot through them if you time it wrong. I said time it, like you even could. Level 4 looks insane, but it's the easiest of them. You don't even face where you're shooting if you shoot from a ladder. Level 6? What a game. And enemies go through the walls sometimes, so it just looks like they don't travel on the ground in this game either. They're just going from point to point, ignoring the scenery. The final stage you walk up to a dead end and that's the game. Whereas in the other levels there was an actual opening. So the black guy dies at the end. There was nowhere to go. Now I'm fucking sad. It's too real. Rocket Jockey. Futuristic cowboy straddles a rocket, attempting to lasso various robo-cattle. The lasso gains power as it glows brighter, but gets dimmer and loses power as the bad guys shoot and hit. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just 2 levels of staying at the top. There's nothing new. I've discussed every aspect of this game during the other evaluations. There is, however, an unused level, level 3. It's pretty glitched, so clearly wasn't finished. Yep, Rocket Jockey. Non-human. They're not human. They have a mind of their own. They are hungry and they want you as their next meal. Get them before they get you. Just what the doctor ordered. A triangle through the back, head inside a condom, track pants, your basic Slav. Quick, we need lava for the bottom of the screen. What kind of tiles do we have? What the fucking fuck is this? I like how the screen is literally pushing us back as we move, and when the screen is still, he runs like he got stung by a hornet. Why would the character have a relative connection to the screen movement? Nothing is ever fixed, the same code used for every game. The game is forcing us to go up, but as soon as we do, it punishes us by placing enemies like this. You can't crouch and shoot, the only thing you can do is fire while standing, which, by the way, also doesn't have an animation. The one-shot limit is really a bitch, one miss, dead. And here, the only way you can avoid this is to go back here and jump over it. Oh my god. Oh, you can make it, it just requires some superhero moves. My god, it makes you lure the enemies out. You can't spawn enemies after you've already committed to the jump. That's horrible game design. That's it? Yes! Crybaby. Try to get Crybaby back to his crib, but be careful to IO with open electric sockets, poisons, fire in the stove. There are things to help along the way such as cookies, lollipops, candy, bars and pacifiers. If the baby meets any bad guys trying to kidnap him, he squeezes his bottle and shoots them. Twinkle, twinkle, little guy, how I wonder why you cry. Down below a game so bad, running from your deadbeat dad. Twinkle, twinkle, little Kyle, now you stumble upon a pedophile. It's Illuminator. Fuck. Why is the baby the size of the adults? Actually, he's bigger than some of the adults. What is this guy's agenda? It's literally a game where pedophiles try to snatch a baby. And this is supposed to be milk? The game is even called Crybaby, so the developers just assumed you're going to get caught. Essentially, this is just like every other one-screen game where you go about on different platforms, it's just that the ladders are exchanged with furniture. Same rules apply, stay on one platform, get rid of the enemies, once they stop spawning, move on and kill the rest. I do have a problem with the furniture being ladders because they don't extend up to the floor, so it looks like they can't be used for climbing purposes. The premise is cute, I guess, a baby climbing furniture and going about the room, but what the shit is this? When somebody proposed this idea, didn't anyone else go like, maybe that's not a good idea? Well, I guess someone went, I love it! The furniture doesn't even sit on the ground, it's hanging in mid-air. And this television or whatever the fuck this is, it's only a ladder hanging in the air, because if you try to climb it down, you'll just fall down and die. Why are there marzipans with legs? A bunch of levels here, and the only difference is... Come on now, I'm waiting. The only difference is... Yep, the colors and the speed of the enemies. Well, actually, they don't get faster. They are just being moved faster between their new locations on the screen. Oh, I just spotted the difference between this and the other games. You have a melee weapon this time. That's like at least changing 2 lines of existing code. And this way, you really can't shoot through the enemies because the milk stays on the screen for a few frames, nullifying that empty frame effect. 5 levels done and shut! Shh! Come! Alright. Slashers. They are everywhere. Mean guys with nails that are 9-inch knives, and they like to slash everything that comes into their path. Don't get in their way, or you're the next victim. I like when Americans use your instead of you are. The American education system got its first kick in 1821, and people still don't know the difference between your and you are. Oh, what is this? A health bar? No! An actual health bar, it's a whole new game. We've got platforms, dings, bricks, you can kick and punch, and it's one of the worst games I've ever seen. Typically in beat 'em ups it makes some kind of a robust sound like but this just looks like a cat fight between two sexually insecure people. You can't even tell when you're getting hit if you just mash buttons. Well, the way to avoid damage is to perfectly time your punch so that your punch meets the enemies. That's essentially the block of the game. Mistime it just a little and you'll take damage. It's not like you're reacting to the enemy. Every enemy is the same, you just learn by taking damage before you know what the rhythm is. None of this matters though. Yoink! Yes, you just walk around them and you're fine. Essentially what the AI is doing is this. First, it spawns from the right. As soon as it spawns, it target locks you and starts to follow you, but their speed is so low you can actually just go around them. If they do catch you, they latch to you from the front, lock in place, and now you have to fight it because they're stuck to their position now. When they're stuck, they repeat the same pattern over and over, so at that point practicing the rhythm prior makes a big difference. But you shouldn't even need to, because avoiding every enemy is pretty easy, unless the scenery comes in the way. The music just makes me want to live life. Oh, as usual, the enemies ignore the blockades. Classic. Way to apply that code only to the player, less work I suppose. I like how when the enemies die, they explode into a bloody mess. Get fucked, boys. One of the only good things here, at least with no distinct sounds, this almost makes it up for it. Holy shit! Who's this asshole? First, this seemed like a boss, but then one of the levels has like 20 of them and he's really no different to anyone else. Rooftops, subway, rooftops, subway, rooftops. Game is over. But I mean, you gotta hand it to them, it's something different. And it has things that other games don't. Your winner. Crazy Shuffle. Educational puzzle game. Picture matching with many levels, games and options. Tests memory and concentration skills. My memory seems to be fine because I can recall this code being used before. What comes to concentration skills, those are dropping at an alarming rate. Think you got the wrong name and description for this one, buddy. It looks like GTA 0.5 on Windows 3.2. Looks like a pretty fun game, if I only had a magnifying glass. And crystal meth. So from what I understand, you're an orange fellow shooting at things you hate. Purple fellows. You collect crosses they forgot to inject code into, and watch out for the stationary shurikens, that's an insta-kill. Well, for those ones that were made into an object. Collect the F. Holy shit, there's a sound attached. It's like Action 52 gave me feedback for the first time. Can't go up even though it's open. What? Okay, now I'm confused. You've done it. You confused me. How did we beat the level? Okay, maybe we can figure this out together. Let's do this. Every projectile and person is like 4 pixels wide. Have fun hitting shit like this. Those purple fellows remind of Kurorin on the Game Boy Advance. I used to like that game. Well, I still like that game. It's like made for 4-year-olds. The boss AI is at full speed here again, but now it collides with these green walls. Except if there are round parts in it. Those are just painted on. They're not actually part of the wall's hitbox. This is going to take a year or two. Again, the enemies move from one spot to the next, so you're going to miss most of your shots even if they are bang on. They didn't even bother to check that the enemies would spawn inside the playing field. Obviously there are empty spots outside and inside the green barrier, so they can spawn there too. Oh boy! I know how this gets beat! The amount of enemies to kill is just very low. For the first few stages it's enough to kill just a couple of them, and it doesn't even care if there are still enemies on the screen. There are other games like this on this cartridge, but I think this is the only one that does this. Usually you need to kill everything that's left on the screen, because there is always a set number that spawn. Looks like the enemies here just keep spawning, but the game ends at a defined kill count. It's winter. Catch a fellow spawning into this location, keep firing and the deed is done. Obviously you should never allow the player to cheese enemies like this. It's kinda like hopping on some kind of a rock on a 3D game and the enemies can't challenge you from the ground, so you just fire arrows at them until they die. The name was still adequate. Crazy Shuffle. You had Christian teams, killing people, getting the letter Fs, running around in a maze. None of it makes any goddamn sense. Fuzz Power. Fuzzy must get to the land of Guru. He's got to avoid the walking brushes, hair dryers, combs and other natural hair disasters. Because if he loses all of his hair, he's bald and the game is over. That's a cock. Micro Mike's got nothing on this. I do have to admit, my hair went grey a few years ago and this is a solid depiction of my... In Fuzz Power, supposedly, you're some kind of a deformed fellow, losing hair each time you get hit. And apparently, according to the manual, losing all of your hair means you should off yourself. You're not ready for society without hair. That's right, if you don't look like an old man's Wang, you're worthless. The first time I tried this, I could not figure out why I kept getting hit. Listen, your attack is this roll, and you're supposed to roll into enemies to kill them. It just seemed like every time I tried it, I died. Or, well, lost my hair and killed myself. The problem is that the roll stays on for only a few frames, and when the enemies group up and move together, the few frames it gives you isn't enough to dodge both enemies, so you just end up getting hit. You should only roll into enemies when there's only one of them. The game just does a shit job at giving you those possibilities. If you're even one frame off, your roll stops and you take a hit. Or if it's a projectile like air from the hairdryer, you actually can't roll into them. They cancel your attack stance and cause damage anyway. Since they have the same attributes as the other bullets from all the other games, they home on you and cause damage no matter what. The developers just didn't bother to change them for this instance, so of course the roll gets cancelled because you're supposed to get damaged. That's how the bullets were coded. Maybe a bad idea to reuse them for a game like this? All they had to do was to give the bullets a positive flag for destruction if the player's sprite was in the roll stance. But I guess by doing that, all of the other games would have had the same piece of code, and that would have caused even more problems. Games are supposed to be designed in a way where your attack or throwable weapon can easily be distinguished, sound effects should be added, and you should also feel the impact. This is like having intercourse with an elephant, or waving a baguette in a mass hall. And how is this comb a natural hair disaster? Jesus. A green enemy against a green background, what was this made with? Game maker for blind people? And what are these tombstones for? It's not health or points, it just looks like a placeholder for something that never became anything. Wait, you just leave it in. Once you walk for a while trying to beat the odds, you come across these mountains, and then soon after that, this pile of rocks. This is the end actually, because there is no way you can make it up there, it's too high. You can hack the X value and move yourself over the mountain, but it'll just reset the game. Well, if you don't want to continue developing a game, just add a barrier. Beats me. Shooting gallery. 7 different levels to test shooting skills. Skeet shooting, gallery shooting, target shooting, quick draw and a final shootout with bad guys and all. No. The floppy-eared bunny. Well, let's do the mandatory test. Yep, now we know. Our bullets are so small, we're going to have to really pray for the best. The hitboxes are so small that we shoot through everything like 5 times before making our mark, because of the positioning issue I've talked about a million times. If the bullet or the enemy are just changing positions, it goes through. Let alone both of them at the same time, that's 2 possible frames where there is no contact. I've heard it all what comes to this game. You can't beat it, there's no way to die, it goes on forever. All of these are false. The game does end. You can die and it doesn't go on forever. The manual literally says 7 levels. And this time, it's correct. In order to beat the game and go back to level 1, you have to kill 137 targets. The thing is, it doesn't matter if you miss the targets, which would be counterintuitive on an actual range. You're supposed to see how many targets you can get. Here, it doesn't matter, just kill enough of them in a single level to proceed. It has nothing to do with actual target practice. Every enemy amounts to different points, but that doesn't really matter. So many bad guys, white ducks, pink rabbits, what's next? Black? The shooting makes a horrible sound, this is literal torture. Fuck the Chinese water torture, this is worse. Remember when I said that there's a way to die? Well, nobody knows about it because nobody plays this game for longer than one level. You can only die when you reach level 3. Now the enemies have a chance to come down to your level if the AI decides so. It's not too common, but it can happen with bad luck. Essentially, levels 1 and 2 have an actual barrier at the bottom before your character, but the barrier is then removed for later levels to make it harder. Quite a good idea in theory, but the execution is horrid. It doesn't tell you that it happened, you have no idea. Why didn't they just add a visible barrier and then just take it away on level 3? I don't know about you, but whenever I go to the range, I hold the gun on top of my head and hold it there for extra challenge. 10 minutes and 137 targets later, we're out. Lollipops. The chocolate monsters have taken Lolly. You are Johnny Jawbreaker and must try to rescue her. Great, somebody died again. Lower the casket, tap the coffin to show connection, eat cake to celebrate. What is with this music? I thought Goonies 2 was strange enough because the main character killed enemies with his yo-yo. Here's a fellow who kills shit with a lollipop, a holeless donut, Kirby that morphs into a deformed starfish, a cleaver with stick legs. Boy, they got all of the chocolate monsters in here. They also couldn't use the existing ladders from other games because they wanted these to be bigger and wider. Now you have to jump up on it instead of climbing it. Was it that hard to attach code from a different object to this one? Actually yes, because these are just normal blocks and platforms made to look like a ladder. It could very well just be one of the blocks from Ooze. It's done like this because the character is bigger in this game than the others. But then, why is the character bigger? It's just an endless barrage of questions. We're gonna go deeper and deeper until we're dissecting pixels here. Well, let's do that, because there's an unused sprite for a stick man. With a dick. Funny how they didn't use that one. Your first instinct would be to jump back down from here, and you know what that would do. So, carefully What? You see that? He got mangled! I mean, I've seen a lot of live leak videos where people turn into paste, but my goodness, look at this! He got fucked! Well, at least they got a teaching element here how the ladders work in this game. Shame there was no prize up there. Okay, well that's worthless then. Why would I go up there? Ah, every time you jump it makes that noise. And so many platforms up there but no use for them at all. It's not like there's another path there or something, it's just for decoration. And once you figure out that you deal damage in the same way as in Fuzz Power, except with an additional 4 pixel range, you'd rather just jump over everything. Yet another challenge nullified. Fuck, I envy that guy in the casket. Wait a minute. Isn't the fall height before dying greater in this game than the others? It's just that your fall speed is much faster. It's basically the same amount of time before you die. In this game you just fall faster, giving you more airtime. We've found it! The Tree of Life! But I thought we were searching for Lolly. I say let the bitch die. We found a tree full of lollies. Welcome to a bunch of jumps where you commit to a jump and then see if an enemy was coming. Do it again, die, do it again, make it a bit further, do it again. Look, the less they have screen estate, the smaller their movement. They actually collide with the edge in this. Not going to help much as the platforms they're on are so small. Yet again, their speed is way too fast for a game like this. This game almost looks like it's fun, but the looks deceive you. It's as mediocre as the rest. It's a fun idea for a kids game, but when you got this... Now it's just a green door. The tree is gone. You would not believe this. What the fuck happened? It's like some sort of a hidden message. The developers are in danger, of course. Oh my goodness, the ghost of Vince Perry, it all makes sense. Doors that lead back to the beginning of the game. Cruel, yet understandable. It's your last chance to exit this dimension. Go back living your life the way it was before. To forget all of this. It's your choice. Go in the door or keep going to see how deep the rabbit hole goes. And you're fucked. If you ignored all of the doors, you're in limbo forever. This is it. The end of the game. Looks like we made the wrong choice and we are stuck here until we starve to death. It doesn't matter anyway, because if you go back to level 1, level 3 is always here waiting for you to finally arrive and go past the doors. It resembles death, suffering, agony, our demise. This is how it all ends. There is no Lolly. Lolly was in our heads all that time. It was merely a character we created so we wouldn't feel so distant to the current social struggles. This is the only game so far that made me think. And for that reason it is the best game in the cartridge so far. Whether this was an Easter egg by the developers or just the code getting mangled or unfinished, it's unsettling in both cases. Why hasn't nobody showcased this to me before? Why am I the first one ever to come here and show it to you? I don't feel normal. I feel like something has been injected into me. My senses have been deleted. I've been sensory deprivated. I've been extinguished. Amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, hallucinations, pencil dick syndrome. The evil empire. Arabian desert has bad Arabians. Whoa, 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 what the? Arabian desert has bad Arabians and genies. Hasha, the warlord, has stolen the great genie. With it, he will rule the land unless you can defeat his evil empire and save the genie. What do you call two Arab guys in front of a trash can? A family portrait. With that racist backstory out of the way, here's a bullshit game. You wouldn't believe me when I told you it's Illuminator. But it is. Again. Now it's smaller people. Random walk lengths, dead while falling, more spawn when you kill them, you know the drill. Except now you're killing a bunch of Arabian people. I like how some of the ladders are chain links. This bigger fellow on the carpet is actually the same size as the rest and his hitbox is still on the ground despite his sprite being off ground. That's fun to shoot at. Why the hell do you climb a ladder like a spider? Well, alright, we understand the similarities, but what are the differences between all of the other Illuminator clones? Well, you got 1-ups for one. Even though it's more like a plum and doesn't in any way let you know it's a 1-up. The 1-ups spawn at the same ratio as the enemies, and if you manage to have 4 1-ups in the level at once, then only one enemy can spawn because of the sprite limit. So leave 4 of them there and fight just one enemy at a time if you feel like it. Then there's these stationary fire shooting vases, and of course our bullet being so small and ignoring half of the frames, you have to shoot it multiple times and adjust your position a bit to kill them. They shoot the bosses homing shots at you, made to look like burning mice. They're also always facing right, despite the ROM having left facing mice too. Guess they forgot to add them. Here's the strange thing. And I wasn't even preparing you for this, but you can get so many 1-ups you can actually go over 9, but then it starts to rotate other characters from the sprite bank in its place. Like here we got T lives and / lives. So for example, if we have T as the lives, it would mean we have 29 lives. This could seriously be a good way to somehow hack this game and rewrite its code, but I don't think anyone who knows how to do that wouldn't give a damn to even do it, so we might never even see that happen. After you get more lives than there are characters, it becomes blank. The sprite bank basically holds all of the characters' letters and numbers, and they are all placed in a row in this one tile. So you just count from the first character to T, and then you have 29, so that's 29 lives. Well, the same strategy works, as always. Stay on the ladders, wait for enemies to spawn, go kill them. Preferably one platform at a time, as long as they keep coming, then finish the rest. They actually have a real pattern on an enemy. Yes! The birds always do this pattern and never change up. It's really something new and you can sometimes miss because of this. Fresh, new, can't believe it. I'm sure they'll find a way to reuse this, but wow, such excitement. Another note I should make is that the platforms aren't solid here either, just like pretty much everywhere else. You can land in between these two layers. The ladders always seem to be the same width, so even if they appear smaller like in this game, you can grab them pretty far off the sides. If you don't get bored enough and quit the game before level 5, you get to see something breathtaking. A new mechanic. You can only climb down these parts, not up. It doesn't really change anything since it's a shit idea to begin with, it just limits you from going up the middle and if the enemies spawn in bad spots, have fun. 5 levels with a new mechanic introduced on the final level and never used to its full potential. In total, you have to kill 125 Arabians to complete the game. Where do they come up with these numbers? There's also an unused title screen and some sprite letters and numbers. It doesn't end there though. Take a look at this dragon motherfucker. This was probably meant to be a boss but never included. Sombreros. A Shivato, thief, has stolen all of the sombreros. You must use your pistola, take the law into your own hands and get them back. This game follows logic, because there are belt buckles driving on the roads. Yeah, I know, they're supposed to be cars, but I've never seen a sprite that looked less like a car than this one. But hey, there's something completely new here again. Well, not that. Good eye. The screen works against us again, as our movement is severely hindered when the screen moves. So our movement is literally relative to the screen movement, and it's getting some sort of values from there, making us slower. It's absolutely normal when we're not moving the screen up, so go figure. What I was actually talking about was the sombreros on the ground, which by the way are bigger than us. They serve as armor in this game. You can only have one armor at a time, so if you get hit, you can collect another to get the armor back. You can't however keep collecting them as the maximum value is 1. So if you get hit, get a new sombrero or you're 1 hit away from dying. Shame there are no indicators on the screen for this. A lot of the games are missing the bonus information on the screen if they are unique to the game, because they would probably show on top of every other game if they tried to add it, since most of these games are just blatantly sharing the same piece of code. This whole cartridge probably has 1 piece of paper worth of code, if even that. There is also no indication made for the player that the sombreros are actually armor. My first instinct was that you need to collect them all to beat the game. Games should be made in a way where it's easy for the player to understand the goals, but sometimes the developers just assume the players know what they want, and that is a clear mark of a developer who doesn't know what they're doing. There is still a sprite limit, but you're so far up the screen it doesn't really get infested. Cars are impossible to see coming before it's too late, but if you keep shooting they won't get you. The people have the boss AI, but with a twist. They only change directions when they hit a wall. Cars just go straight down when the screen is being scrolled. Oh look, it's the 3rd mountain from Illuminator. Here's the difference! We're also collecting women's hats now. They also forgot to throw a line on the roofs of the blue houses, making it look like the house is smashed to the ground. There is no perception. Just in case, I collected every hat or waited for them to disappear just to see if there was a prize for special people like me, but no, nothing. The game is also longer than it seems, but in reality you're just doing laps over the same screens over and over again. One level might just have you going through the same screen 3 times. If you're not placing yourself by the pixel, these gaps can't be cleared. They're exactly as wide as you are, which is just bad design. The gap should be wider than your hit. Look at this piece of road acting as a bridge. This looks like my first city in the 1989 SimCity for DOS. What makes this even more sad, that not only are a lot of things borrowed from other games, it looks like the distance you travel in this game is exactly the same as in other games where the screen is moving up. For example, Star Evil. If you look at these games being played at the same time, you can see that both of them complete at the exact same moment when we slow down Star Evil to the same pace. In Sombreros, I made sure to keep moving up without stopping. So yet another thing that was reused, every game that has you scrolling the screen up are exactly the same length. I could easily believe it, it's an easy way to set a boundary for each game, and once they ran out of screen to scroll, just add some plants at the end and complete the level. I'm also led to believe that in a lot of these games, they also use the invisible block to transfer you between levels as a trigger, because the game doesn't end when the screen scroll ends, it ends when you walk high enough. It's easier to code for Star Evil. When the boss dies, the level ends. But they needed a trigger nevertheless. There are also countless other things that have been reused, like having to look where you want to fire, but I don't think it's necessary to go over everything again, so... If they just hatch you without a sombrero before collecting one, and then putting one on as you pick them up, then it would at least cue you in that you had some sort of protection. The enemies could have then first shot the sombrero off, then you. But no such thought went around during development, and I thought of that after 5 seconds of seeing how the mechanic worked. Then again, if somebody handed me $1,500 and told me to make a game in 3 months, maybe I would have done the same. Way to treat your team like assholes. I don't even get out of bed for fucking $1,500. Storm over desert. Using your tanks, you must avoid the mine fields set by the evil army of Satan Hossein. The evil Satan's army of soldiers will kill you or die trying. It has an intro screen. The 1963 flag of Iraq. Why is Satan equipped with a crop? This is a big intro screen coming from a small man who can't even write English. There are more grammar mistakes in these manual descriptions than there is oil in the Middle East, and here they come with their very American splash screen. Good job guys, really makes you look fantastic. Where was this game made in, Alabama? How's the game then? Well, Iraq is being marked with pink tanks and a huge version of a running Saddam Hussein. What is this, 1990s Newgrounds? Yay! Kill all of the fucking ugly deserters! Anyway, you can take 5 hits and it includes people. Yes, running over people caused the tank damage, because fuck coding 1 extra line. I tried to understand their motive for this game, but after making so much fun of Saddam, they then make him invincible in the game. He can't be killed. You can only shoot his black friends to your heart's content. At first I thought the enemies would go across the screen, but no, they actually appear from random spots, oftentimes just hitting you almost instantly. And you're so slow, good luck actually hitting anything. Kinda suffers from the same problems as sharks in that sense. And no health bar. What do you think, you get a health bar? Better write down your health and keep track that way. Level 2, you're at the beach. With shit that you can run over that looks like a fence but isn't. Level 3, the deserts. A few blocks are now placed on the screen to stop you from moving there. The enemies hover as usual, so they just go past them. Level 4. Level 5, however, has some sort of a trench, and in the middle of it there's an invisible death block that kills you. Good one. There's also some sort of a pipe you can't go through. Fuck, it's like waiting for the fucking paint to dry. In the rain! Level 6, I've learned, don't go into the trenches. Oh my god, who the fuck cares? If you add all of the enemies together that you need to kill to beat the game, it's 249 enemies. Have fun. Mashman. You're... Really? You're a funny looking dude with a little head and great big feet. You've got to mash everything in sight before they somehow mash you. I'm gonna cut to the chase. Don't jump on sharp shit, jump on eyeballs. Shit. Fuck. God damn. A thumbtack, my only weakness. Can't even see that shit. He's basically the cock from Fuzz Power, but now dressed as some sort of a Danish fellow running the marathon for the first time. The scenery never changes, no gaps, no elevation, just enemies that you jump over. Unless it's an eyeball, then you can mash it. This nose stuck between some saloon doors though, that's too prickly. It's just stationary enemies every now and then, it's 3 levels. I can't even make this up, this is a real game. Of course the game doesn't really tell you what hurts you and what doesn't, so you'll eventually just figure out that sharp things are sharp and eyeballs aren't. There was a hurt sprite, but it was never used. Time, what a bitch. 3 levels with different palettes and fuck. This game gave me nothing to talk about. Even the shit like controls and jump mechanics, I've already talked about them, so there's literally nothing left. Unless maybe we can check if the horizontal games are also as long as the vertical ones? Oh. They came. They came. On what? They came from outer space. Try killing all of the green-eyed monsters, only to be attacked by their leader. They came from outer space. Well, obviously couldn't fit that whole title in, so just better shorten it to They Came. Why even name your game? How do you like that projectile size? It's like 2 pixels tied together. You've got 4 hit points this time, and picking up these P parts gives you 1 more hit, with the maximum being 4. Now, would you guess that these are actually hazardous? Yes, these stationary things that look like exploded stars actually kill you. There is no animation or anything, so how would you know? Another example of a grand design. They came from outer space. They didn't come on shit. We're also in space. So how did they come from outer space if we're also there? They're coming from within space to our current location. I almost like these blocks because they resemble some kind of cargo or pieces of spaceships that got blown off. But when my imagination ends, so does the game's charm. There is really nothing new here that I haven't already explained. You turn to fire in said direction, enemies spawn from random spots giving you close to no time to react, and if you keep the sprite limit full, you're going to be alone in space. I am the one who comes. Now as we move on, look at this. The borders of these blocks are filled with the same purple material that can be seen on these rounded things that hurt us, so why in the hell would we even try and go close to it? Well, you have to at some point at least try it, because it seems that otherwise the space would be pretty limited here. You should never use the same kind of pattern for both objects that hurt you and background graphics, but it seems like to me that whoever is watching this now understands that. So why don't all of the developers understand the basic principles of game design? I mean, if you took an electrician or a carpenter off the street and asked them about this, they would no doubt tell you that it's not smart to make 2 objects look the same, but work differently. It's like installing your garage door to work with a light switch and look the same. Well, we got 1-ups again. No sound. Better leave them there if you want less enemies at any given time. I just noticed, the hell? Why are our shots sideways? Oh, they just never added any code to turn it, based on the ship's position. If we shoot right, it looks normal, but when we turn, it's the same as shooting right. Even shooting left, it stays the wrong way. Look, it looks different. Stand in one place and keep firing. I mean, why would you do anything else? What incentive would I have to keep moving around? It's not like Asteroids, which is an actual good game where you need to keep dodging the meteors. Here, you got nothing to dodge. Unless the enemies spawn right on you, but they'll die if they are in your line of fire. Stationary enemies have been thrown into the mix, and now these 1-ups just keep spawning. Oh, and now they recolored that purple goo and made it grey. Why didn't they do that earlier? Oh, but now the ships are grey too. It's like every possible game design mistake you could ever do, they're all here. Skulls mean dead, no touch the skull. They just changed the purple garbage into skulls. But at least now we have a better idea of the actual hitbox. Yes, they use the same hitbox for all of them. You surprised? I have to admit, this is one of the better games on the cartridge, because every other level works a bit differently and it's going to get quite insane. But when I say better, that's not saying much. It still sucks a straw out of a platypus's penis while hanging out. We've got so many 1-ups again that were in the letters. But like I said, every stage has new enemies, new patterns to learn and so on. They're not good patterns or even that fun, and it can turn unfair pretty fast, but this game at least even tries. Sometimes there are so many 1-ups that the game goes over the sprite limit and nothing spawns. It doesn't help that they can spawn inside the skulls too, because no ground checks were done, they can just spawn anywhere on the screen. It's some sort of a boss level, but as usual there is nothing on the screen when starting the level, so obviously the game just calls the bosses in as soon as possible and you get gang raped. It's the boss AI and they don't even physically turn, they are facing the way they faced when they spawned in. This is actually quite riveting, it's almost like I'm playing a game. Next up, more ships. These ones appear and disappear just as fast. You're better off just killing the stationary blocks to beat the stage, as it doesn't matter what you kill, just as long as you kill enough of them. And then, another boss level, now with blocks in your way. Damn, this is busy looking. Just have to find a safe spot, otherwise there's not much you can do to survive. The biggest problem of this game certainly is the fact that you have to kinda cheat to beat it, which of course is true for most of these games, but here I kinda feel bad. This would be possible to beat, but who in their right mind wouldn't save state this? Especially with those cheap level spawns, and if you game over, you'd have to start it back from level 1. I don't think 100 lives would be enough. There's an even better game done in a similar manner, but it's coming up later. We're just running out of evaluations to do since everything is borrowed across the titles. Let's keep going. Laser League. You're trapped in a warp with only your laser. You must try to stay alive, collecting new weapons on the way and avoiding the traps they've set for you, until you can be rescued by the Laser League. By the power of the gay skull! Fuck me. Well. Doesn't it look like the bottom is solid ground? Well, it's not, and no enemies ever spawn from that spot. They just forgot to make it solid, so why wouldn't we use that to our advantage? Even if you couldn't go there, you could just stay in one spot and keep firing. Then there's another familiar thing. This game effectively uses every asset that has already been created before. We've had games where we're too slow to get out of harm's way. Well, this is the complete opposite. We're faster than anything else, so dodging these bullets is nothing. Even if you play the levels legit, it's still one of the most boring games in existence. Don't you love the soundtrack? It's also a dumbass move to have our lasers be in 2 parts, when it really is just one projectile that does 1 damage. Why did they include a gap in it? Guess how many stages? 2. 2 stages. And look at these ships. I could probably make a better sprite in 10 minutes, and I've never ever done sprite work. I could make up more shit to talk about, but I think we're just wasting our time. Let's get to something actually interesting. Billy Bob. Marilou has disappeared. The bad guys have her, but Billy Bob is stuck in jail and must find his way out from deep within this prison. It's a long sentence, in the desert by traversing all of the levels and rescuing Marilou. Being kidnapped isn't exactly called disappearing, but whatever. Listen, it's a cheap knockoff of Prince of Persia. The animations of the main character stop as soon as you let go of a button. Usually there's a watered down time for the animation to come to a smooth stop after no buttons are being pressed. This is done to make the movement look fluent and realistic, unlike this mess. Brrrah! Excuse me? There's a showcase for literally every other arrow that's about to drop, except the one straight above this first obstacle. Yet another learned by dying title. Truth to be told, these drops from the ceiling are, you guessed it, random. Placements are random and the actual sprites are random. It doesn't matter if it's a block or an arrow, the end result is the same. Lucky for us, there are certain animations with no hitbox, so we can make the climb up if we just time it correctly. Fuck off! This is really one of my pet peeves, but your common sense should tell you not to put hazards, pits or enemies right after a transition, especially if the transition is instant instead of a gradual screen shift. You'll never see that coming the first time. It seems like most of these screens in the majority of these games were done without thinking about the continuity of the game. It's like the rooms were done and thrown into a pool and then picked from there and assembled. You can't, in your greatest honesty, tell me that this level, for example, was built from room 1 to room whatever, in order. There is no way anyone would do this. It has to be randomized, at least in some form. That's not the only problem. The fact that there's a gap right after the transition, there is a bigger, much more idiotic problem. It's an old friend visiting, well, 2 of them. The first one is the descending time. Too short, of course. You can tell that they didn't even account to it in this game. If you look at the screen, you should be able to just drop down and go right, but due to every game sharing the same mechanics, it doesn't work out. It doesn't just magically work how they intended it to, that requires actual work. What's the other problem then? The jump mechanics. Remember how we already discussed it? If you hold down the jump button while pressing a direction, it locks your horizontal movement. This is true to most of these games. People have actually thought that this game is impossible to beat and that it ends here. This is however false. Here's how you do it. So let go of the button as soon as you jump, and there we go. Notice how it's not even enough that you stop on this platform, you need to make a running jump. Jump doesn't actually work when you're standing still. Yes, they disabled it. Why? Who knows? So, in order to make this, you need to be ready to jump immediately when the screen changes, otherwise you can't make it. So not only do you have to know that there's a gap, you also have to know to jump in advance. Even if this was left in the game, make it the last screen, not the second if you really have to have it. Anyway, once that's cleared, we can move on. Okay, there's another. That's really funny. I'm fucking laughing right now. Holy shit. God damn! Well, these dropping blocks and arrows only start to spawn in after a while, so your best bet is to try and make every screen as fast as possible. If you don't, you just get cornered or pummeled. I mean, they do spawn instantly sometimes because it's all random, but usually you have at least a few seconds to get out of the way. Oh, it's our friend, the sprite limit. That's why some of the arrows and blocks drop down immediately without a telegraph. It's because the telegraph can't show up if there's too much shit going on. Otherwise you would only have the telegraphs at the top and none of them could fall down because that would require a new sprite to come in. Even the jovial ideas fail. The game is tripping on its own shoelaces. Oh, those are actually some nice looking sprites. Shame they forgot the descending deaths, so now they're just there for show. Come on, you can't have the floor this high up if the hazards drop down from the ceiling. And can you imagine how hard it is to jump on top of this block? It's not coded as a variable, so you can't just be 5 or 7 pixels away from the block and grab it. You have to be spot on. You have to be just 1 pixel away from the edge to be able to grab it, and that's hard to judge. Can you imagine playing this on a CRT television? Holy shit, there's an actual exit. It's the same invisible exit block again, but with a sprite on top. But hey, at least it's here. Don't jump off the platform though, that'll kill you. You literally have to run from the previous screen to make this. What? Oh, I didn't realize you can shoot. Pretty nice sound effect, and look at the animation. That's really nice. I'm not sure if we're ever going to need the gun, but it's there for now. Okay. It really does highlight the idea I had about the screen pool, doesn't it? There's literally no platform on this screen, so you have to start your jump from the previous screen. No, 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 no. No! Huh, nice trigger. I'm serious. If you're on the same level as the hazards, they get wiped. They wanted you to beat this game, huh? The arrow shouldn't go through the goddamn... Oh! Ew! The arrow shouldn't go through the goddamn blocks. This entire cartridge has 0 collisions coded in, apart from invisible walls and character interactions between objects. Enemies, they just fucking float. It somehow gets even worse. I have to make this. And I'm so close to the arrows to begin with, and the next screen I have to stand on that platform that isn't the... If I can just... God damn, come on. Ah, nice. Level 3. Christ almighty. This can't be real. This can't be real! We're suddenly in Cheetahmen. Level 4 to be exact. We just warped from an entirely different game to another. Now I sound like I made so much sense during this whole video. All the talk about the games being loaded the same way, sharing the same code, behaving similarly and using the same asset pool and paragraphs of code. In fact, this shouldn't even be surprising. The reason this happened is because the game has what is called a bank switch bug. Something about the bank switches being switched by accident, meaning that it fails and either crashes or loads something else. Bank switching is a technique used in computer design to increase the amount of usable memory beyond the amount that is addressable by the processor. In video game systems, bank switching basically allowed larger games to be developed for play on existing consoles. I'd imagine that with 52 games, they needed this technology to even have a few levels per game, and of course, like everything else, They failed utilizing the technology. As soon as you exit this level, the bank switch happens, but it's mistakenly swapped with another switch, and here we are in Cheetahmen level 4. The beginning of this level looks like ass, and it has crossed my mind that this screen could be a so-called garbage screen. Sometimes developers used to hide excess or bonus code in garbage tiles like this, and it would make sense that we ended up here. Why are there garbage tiles in an actual Cheetahmen stage and not hidden somewhere else? I have no idea. There are also 2 level 3s in Cheetahmen, so my educated guess would be that this other level was never supposed to be actually included, or at least not the beginning of it. Let's save the evaluation of Cheetahmen for its actual spot, but I do want to mention that if we keep going, the rabbit hole goes deeper during level 4. Or should I say 5? Keep in mind, we're still actually playing Billy Bob. If you drop down to this pit, well, you're now pushed into level 9 of Cheetahmen. Collect the 1-up and boom, level 10. Which really is just a garbled mess. It's most likely a part of a stage or 2 stages mixed together. Nothing makes sense, and to advance you jump on invisible platforms. If you can cross a certain area on the screen with your sprite, you can spawn the final boss of the game here. If you beat it, you're just transferred back to the title screen. This is without a doubt not supposed to be here, even the colors are wrong, so the code is getting mangled at some point. Why does this pit cause it? The best answer I have is that it's executing something bad when you drop down here. I really don't have a good answer. Some people say they are warps that were coded in but never finished, but who the fuck knows? My best guess is that there's one of those invisible exit blocks, or indeed a warp, and they just forgot it there during testing. Because otherwise we would have come down from the top and died there. But the fact that the sprite completely stops at the bottom, we're hitting some sort of a trigger there. Well, you can actually beat Cheetahmen via Billy Bob, and that's fucking awesome. Billy Bob is heavily glitched, and because of the bank switches being called out of order, the rest of the levels don't work. There are actually a whopping 11 stages for Billy Bob, and because of a simple bug, you can only play 2 of them. What a sad conclusion, seeing all the potential it had. It could have been one of the best games on the cartridge. No matter how awesome this experience was, I'm still bitter that it all happened. We just can't get a break with this fucking game. Like I said, there are 11 unused levels which can all be played via an emulator by accessing the RAM list. There are also voice clips made for Billy, but never used in the final version of the game. City of Doom. While scaling the city skyscrapers to rid the city of the evil insect plague, you better shoot well and accurately because the fall is a long way down. Behold, the worst game of the entire bunch. What do you turn into a priest when you die? Not even the 2-level games come close to this abomination. This is the only game I didn't actually beat, but made sure to do research so that I wouldn't miss anything important. Here's the thing. The windows and the window sills are in your way, so the wall is the only surface you can climb. Not only that, but you get killed by touching the windows. You die! They're not just obstacles, they're stationary enemies. One slip up and you're dead. Try scaling this gap. You have to be on the pixel to make this, so you're better off not even trying. Too bad, there are usually enemies coming at you and you'd benefit from going sideways, but no, it's out of the question. The windows and the window sills gradually hurt you, and they take a part of your health bar. It looks like sometimes you can pass through some of the surface, but most times you'll take several hits, but only when you move. So pressing a direction and passing over this area will get you killed, but if you let go, you're fine until you move again. Everything else is pretty familiar. 2 enemies at once at max, strange projectiles and goal of moving the screen up as far as it goes. It's probably the same length as other games, well, most likely, you're traversing so slow it'll take you a while. The bowling balls go straight down, but the hornets have the boss AI. Which is a really bad idea, because the developers have the tendency to put you really close to the edge you're moving towards, so that your reaction times are cut in half. We should be positioned closer to the bottom to be able to react to these enemies. Even then, your movement speed is so slow that if you miss your shot, you're going to get hit. At the end, you have to stop shooting just like in Star Evil, otherwise the boss doesn't spawn. When it does spawn, you realize how slow you actually are. The boss is almost twice as fast, And if the random number generator decides to kill you, it'll kill you. There is no running away. You can't get away from this. You have to have insane luck for a few minutes so that the boss doesn't run into you and kill it. And you can't even move diagonally because they never coded such movements in the games. This is really dreadful. Most times you're just going up with nothing going on, then something kills you faster than you can say duck. I'm getting the Forrest Whitaker eye. If I could just keep going up and fire to the sides or something, but no. And you can only fire through your right hand, so you're always firing off center. Your best bet is to go up from the sides, but careful, the cloud is an enemy. Really now? Fuck this. This is literally the worst game in the entire cartridge, and it's almost nothing new from the other games. All the assets and the code is just reused for this, but somehow the setting, the premise, and how it's presented to you is just the worst thing. I can't make myself go through this. I give up. There's only 3 stages and I made it halfway through level 2. With save stating and cheating, that was the furthest I could make it. This is because everything gets even faster except the player's ability to move, so now dodging anything is even more difficult. You're just way too slow for this game. Level 3 they upped the count of the enemies and made them even faster. It would be easier to actually climb a real building than beat this game. The final insect boss is so fast you can't react to anything it does, so it's all luck at that point. Fuck off. Bits and pieces. Try to make solid lines out of various sizes and shapes as they float down to the bottom of the screen. So, Tetris? This can't even be bad. I've only seen a couple of bad Tetris clones and it's been a while. Okay. So maybe they messed up the title of the game, the description of the game, in the manual, and in the game. This is just a clone of Mashman, but the enemies move now and they come from left and right. Wolves walking upright with diapers, slime chaps, skeletons, and you're some kind of a duck vampire dressed as a janitor. Health bar is missing as usual, but you can take 3 hits. When you get hit the final time, you disintegrate. And to be honest, it looks pretty good. Just like in Mashman, the only attack you have is the bottom of your feet. If you hit the enemies with anything else than a descending jump on their head, you take damage. I really hate how in most games you don't get any feedback at all as per your actions. Kill the enemy successfully or get hit by it, the result is more often than not the same. The enemy disappears and you're left wondering what happened. It's only once we really test the game, we figure out how it works. In all honesty, if you have 3 months to make 52 games, hiring a testing team would have led to the cancellation of this cartridge, or at the very least prolonged the publish schedule by a few years, and that was not in Vince Perry's best interests. What an amateur mistake, having a white background while most of the enemies have white accents or parts in them. The teeth of the wolves, the skeletons, the diapers. Just basic principles you should never mess up in game development. And to talk about the jump some more, it's usually best to jump over the enemies instead of trying to land on top of them, because sometimes a few enemies spawn at once. So when you make that initial jump to crush the first one, you'll probably land too soon and get hit by the next enemy. Stage 2 has more tombstones in the back and brown crosses. Also these purple persons now. Stage 3 however. Doesn't this look like it's supposed to be stage 1? Usually games start with the happy green overworld and then gradually change into something more morose. It's like starting Mario 3 from World 8 and going back to World 1. Once we walk the same distance over again, the game is done. The enemies are a bit faster of course, but the game never gets too hard. No bosses, no nothing. I remember playing a darts game when I was a kid. This was on the PC. It was one of the worst games I ever played, and even that was more interesting than most of these fuck-ups. To take the dart in your hand, you press space. To select the curvature, you press space at the right time. To select power, you held down space until you had enough of it, and to throw, you press space. To clear the points and to throw another dart, you press space. So all you did to throw one dart was press space 4 times, and that was far better than anything we've seen here today. A game where you only have one button has beaten a bunch of games on the NES. It's hard to imagine. At least on the Atari 2600 you still had the joystick even if you only had one button. When entertainment turns into a surreal reflection of your life, you're a lucky man if you can laugh at the joke. Beeps and blips. Robots, microscopic and humongous. Here they come. Ready your weapons and fire. Still watching? Splendid, because this is the best game on the entire cartridge. This is the grand motherfucker of Action 52. The title that is like a rain cloud on top of every other game here. Okay, it's not that good, but it can certainly carry the entire arsenal with ease. Listen, you're a diamond-shaped eyeball ship and you go around collecting one-ups, which in this game are actually hit points. A 1-up adds 1 hit point and it's clearly showcased on your ship. The maximum hit points you can have is 4. We actually got feedback on the things we just accomplished? Now we know what it does, isn't that a great feeling? The background isn't really in your way, it's just there for graphics. It's mostly random garbage anyway, but this game actually has something you would call progression. Every level is different from the rest, and would you believe that every enemy is different? They all behave in a unique way, and that means you actually learn something playing this. On level 1 you got 2 enemies. These horseshoes move slowly and fire small bullets, and they can only move in the 4 main directions. Then there's this blue cross, which can actually also move diagonally. Look at that! Diagonally! Diagonally! In addition to their movesets being randomly generated, they can also trigger a despawn. They are there just basically to annoy you. Most likely you proceed to the next level by killing enough horseshoes. Yes, that's right, the basic mechanic of killing enough shit is back. I'm happy to say that level 2 has different enemies and more stuff to learn. The green cross moves in the 4 directions. The green crosshairs fire bullets. It's not much, and of course these are all assets we know of, but it's still pretty interesting. Take out enough of them while collecting HP and you're off to the next level. I still hate how in order to fire left you have to turn left first, and that mechanic ends up like a rain cloud on top of this game as well. Anyway, stage 3, the background is really offending my eyes now, but the enemies are rather interesting again, although flawed. The pink balls move too fast. Remember when I talked about the fact that enemies don't really move on their own, but rather they are being moved from spot to spot? Well, it really shows here again. It's hard to hit these fucks in any other way than dead on when they are coming at you. Seems like the hitbox is half the size as well. Despite these flaws, it's still, dare I say, almost a fun fight. And isn't it nice to have an actual representation of your health in a simple manner this time? It's like I'm playing an actual game. The yellow crosses are basically suicide bombers. They move in all directions and home on you like a bullet would, but it's given a trigger to keep following your every move instead of just going the direction you were first seen. You wanna get rid of these fucks fast. I mean, holy shit. I'm explaining a real game to you and how it works and what's behind it. Stage 4 is a bit criminal, but it's because of the enemy designs and sprite limit. You start the stage and realize everything is coming at you because the game is told to spawn in something when the field is empty. Well, it's sort of a boss level. You got green mines which are fast as hell, actually faster than you, so there is no getting away. You need to kill them before they catch you or you lose HP. Shame they are so fast, they end up ruining this whole stage. The idea is nice, but in practice it doesn't work well. You also got pink crosses which also home on you, albeit slower, but to make up for it, they fire bullets in random directions. Sad to say, but unless you save state on the level intro, you probably won't make it. It's way too difficult. Even though the green mines are faster than you, they turn slower. So by going in circles, they shouldn't catch you if you do it correctly. You oughta just hope that the level spawns more pink crosses than these mines. You now also got to get used to these purple blocks, they are in your way. One other flaw is that the enemies spawn in from random locations, so sometimes they spawn right next to you and there's not much you can do about it. Do keep in mind the mechanics on this game as well. When you realize that there's only one enemy left, wait for 1-ups to spawn and get them. You should cheat to beat this level and it's probably the only way to win. Keep luring the mines behind you and try to get them to the edge of the screen. If you succeed, they will disappear. Only problem is that this doesn't count towards a kill, so you still need to achieve enough kills in the stage to proceed, but then you actually have a chance to get rid of the pink crosses. Kill enough of them and you're set. Or get enough 1-ups so you can crash into the mines and kill them that way. Near impossible level, but I forgive them. Oh, but notice how these blocks aren't even in the same vertical field. Now I'm mad again. Anyway, on level 5 we've got flowers and Decepticon logos. The Decepticon logos just stay still and sometimes fire bullets. The flowers move in 4 directions at an intermediate speed, but they can't be killed by bullets. We've got our first puzzle, ladies and gentlemen. Do you wait for enough Decepticon logos to spawn and keep killing them? Or do you wait for 1-ups and ram the flowers with your ship? I can't believe this game exists. So much thought was put into this, it almost makes me think it was the first game they made for the cartridge and then they started ripping the assets of this game to all the other games. It's the most polished, most interesting and dare I say really the best game on the cartridge. This is almost fun. Okay, what's next? Level 6, a dick with balls, utilizing the boss AI, which can actually only be killed by collision, and some sort of trolley enemy that homes on you. I'd advise getting full hit points on the previous stage before getting here. But yet again, we have an interesting twist on our hands. Plain old strategic fun. Level 7 has more phallic enemies. Good luck trying to dodge this stick coming at you 500 miles per hour. The only thing you can do now is to pray that they spawn into your existing line of fire. This stage is pretty flawed for that reason, and looks like the developers dropped their balls a little bit here. They did realize this as the smaller yellow fellows spawn in, but then move out of the screen as soon as they can. Just pay attention to the pink ships and pray, use save states, to the best of your ability. This is the worst level so far. If you somehow make it, there is an actual boss encounter. Too bad they were pretty sure nobody would ever make it there, so they didn't actually finish the game. You can't hurt the boss and the boss can't hurt you. It's a garbled mess and wasn't probably even meant to be seen. Let's be real, you could not beat this on the original system, it's way too difficult without save states. But even with the final stage being unfinished, it's still by far the best game in the entire collection. I'm almost impressed. Manchester Beat. There have been sources where it's actually called Man-Cheater Beat. The manual does have it correctly. Suddenly they're trying to convey a message. From this I'll gather that you're the wife, or a man, beating your husband because they cheated on you. Man-Cheater Beat. Or is it like some sort of a dance game where we celebrate the man-cheater with an awesome beat? You must try to keep the rhythm, but noisy little critters won't let you. Noisy critter being the wife? Roll the drums and they go away temporarily, but they'll be back. Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Oh, Manchester. Of course. In the UK. Manchester. Or Manchester as in linen. Okay, it's the beat. We're having a riot in this dance-themed game where we celebrate that this cheater, who is a man, every time you jump. Out of all of the sound effects they have in the games, this was the perfect choice. Get used to it, it'll overpower everything else. Well, you can punch with both fists, though slowly. Ah! Hitboxes, the usual. And your fist isn't exactly what's causing damage, it's just that your sprite becomes invincible for a few frames, so technically you're still crashing into them just without taking damage. Look at this puny punch, it's ridiculous. The most probable enemy to kill you in this game is this red flower. Again, with zero time to react, you just have to memorize when they are spawned in and jump over, or, if you're confident enough, fist them. Music blocks from Mario. Never knew what they symbolized in that game, and I don't get it here either. Consider us lucky, because our fall speed is so fast we can make pretty high jumps without getting killed mid-air. Enemies typically move until they clash with the scenery, so they just go back and forth except on blocks that were never made in the blocks. What? There are also stationary flames. Fun fact, you can actually just walk past the entire thing when you see the first gap of the stage. Since the ground isn't solid but made of separate tiles, you can just drop down into one of these gaps here and run to the finish. Also, because the roof has, well, an actual roof, the bottom of the pits don't actually kill you. You can just walk on them because you'll be walking on the roof. Remember how the screen basically wraps around unless they add a barrier? Yeah, they didn't add anything nor put any dead blocks down there, so now the pits do nothing. If in some places the roof would be missing, it will still kill you as you drop out from the top. An interesting note, they never added a sprite where the main character would punch to his left. If you face left and punch, the sprite will turn right and punch. Of course, it doesn't make a difference since the fist isn't an actual damage dealer, but the whole body is. And look at this. Sometimes dropping off of these blocks means that you're fucked. There is no way to get back up there. What a fucking joke. For games as primitive as this, why are there sections that require you to reset the game? My goodness, it's 3 levels and shit like this is a thing. Hey, it's a new boss type for the cartridge. Sadly, once you follow him for about 10 seconds, you realize that is all. He moves in a triangular pattern and never does anything else. Just look for the spot where he starts flying in the air and align yourself so that you can punch him as soon as he lifts up. This way your sprite is invincible as he passes through and you can cause some damage at the same time. Failing to punch at the right time will kill you as his sprite passes over yours. Not much else you can do because it's a flawed design. Stage 2 has new tiles. Enemies are the same, so find a gap and drop down to the layer below and run to the right to beat the stage. Of course, before you can do that, there's spots like this. Lovely. Another flame person. Find a spot and repeat. Stage 3 has spikes as platforms. That doesn't look off or anything. Good job. Here's one of the spots where if you drop down, there is no way up. Such a nice design. It would almost be a good challenge, but the fact that there's no way to know what's going to happen, you just have to know to keep jumping on these blocks and not drop down. And if you do drop down, there is nothing there to kill yourself with, so you have to reset the game and go back to level 1. The idea is to challenge the player, but the execution leads us to believe that maybe this was designed by a blind ape. Well, once you reset the game and do all of the levels again, here's your final boss. Your winner. The Toad is the Mafia boss. The Toad is the Mafia boss who uses salamander hitmen. They're all out to get you, but you can beat them as long as your partner keeps a good eye for those bad guys. We are so far up Action 52's ass, there's almost nothing new to find anymore, but at least we have a unique concept here and the protagonist doesn't even look too bad. Shame the game is like taking a piss in your own mouth. You never run out of bullets, so you probably should keep firing just in case an enemy runs at you. Or just stands there. I never understood stationary enemies in games. In a platformer or any other kind of game where you move, what does an enemy give to the game if all they do is stand there and look pretty? You're just going to kill them and move on. It's just to slow you down and make you feel like you're doing something, when in reality you're being treated like an idiot. Some games can pull that off, but this is Action 52, let's be realistic. Your biggest threat is not the enemies, but bombs. All you gotta do is to time it though. As a positive side, there are good telegraphs for the bomb drops, and it's easy to tell when to move, maybe even a bit too easy. I crashed the wrong party, I mean. Good effort, the boss just goes left and right on a small perimeter. Never going to fucking do anything to you. Kill the helpless fucker! The second stage is laid out so badly that all you have to do is walk right and fire. All of the bombs, they have no chance to drop on you because they are so high up and their telegraph is so long. And boop, here's another Mr. Frog. On level 3, I actually thought the game was over because I ran into a dead end and could not go any further. Of course, I was shooting when the boss was trying to appear, so I exceeded the sprite limit unknowingly. Fuck, there's actually more to this. On the next batch of levels, the bombs get faster and enemies are placed in spots when you're going under a bomb. When that happens enough times, you'll learn to shoot beforehand. The last stage is all about the trigger finger. As soon as one of these green fellows pop up on the screen, you have just under a second to fire or you'll die. Every stage boss is the deformed frog. Oh! That's a useful skill to have. If I could fucking fly! Honestly, if you could even climb the buildings or something to make it a little bit more interesting. It was at this point when I realized I could jump. For some reason, I never even tried to jump because there was no need to. Until these stationary Meong started shooting small bullets out. If it happens in an inconvenient spot, your only option is to lure the shot to the left and then make a very precise jump over. And would you look at this character? It looks like something I drew before I even went to daycare. Honestly, if I could just find one of my old drawings that I made just after I learned how to walk, it would look exactly like this. It's so close to my style of drawing as a kid, it's almost frightening. And this was done by an adult. Granted, he probably had 10 minutes per sprite, but let's still make fun of the fact. I also noticed that in the later levels, they try to trick you by extending the hands but not dropping bombs at first. Clever. The bombs being faster, it's really not making the game harder in any way, the telegraph is as long as it was before. I'd imagine changing the telegraph timing was probably tied to all levels, so they could not change it. Well, that's about it. We killed Mr. Frogtard 6 times and got rid of all the salamander hitmen. We are the superior race. Can you even say Dedant? Help the ant protect the anthill from intruder and protect the queen. Push pebbles to close the hole against intruders, but it's not easy. All this game is doing is pushing a pebble in my asshole. Nowhere in the game do you push anything anywhere. This is, in basic terms, a poor man's Space Invaders. With ants. And music that would make you go into labor. As a man. At first I thought I could not let the ants to the bottom, because that meant I'd have to kill myself. See, you can only shoot up. So if the enemies get to your level, then there really isn't any way to kill them anymore. You just have to collide into them and die. Essentially, you just have to kill enough of them to proceed to the next level, but what I found out was that if I'm in these two spots, the enemies vanish when they get near. And then I saw that they just used the boss AI, so eventually, with the luck of the draw, they'll move back up. So if all you want to do is to dodge shots, be in these spots and the bullets can't hit you as they are coded to disappear on contact with the blocks. This open space also works because for some reason it still carries the block's attributes. The shots just vanish, thinking it's a wall. So yet again, finding a way to cheat is your key to victory. This is all just a huge waiting game. If the enemies get to the bottom, wait for them to go back up. Whenever you get the chance, land a shot. You also don't have to worry about the homing enemy types, as they just disappear at the edge as well. But if you can kill one of those, well, it just counts towards the completion of the stage. My god, would this be impossible without this cheat? Or is it really a cheat if it's possible within the game? The enemies do clash with the scenery at first, but on the following levels some of them are placed to float instead of crashing with the scenery, so no matter what the layout of the room is, it doesn't play into it in any way. Kinda defeats the purpose of different layouts. You just gotta think, why do some games have a one-shot limit and other games have no limit at all? Like here, why on earth are we restricted to one shot only with a game as difficult as this? It just encourages you to cheat. After you've killed 116 enemies in various stages, the game is over. Hambo's Adventure. Donkey Kong type of game. Try to get Hambo to the top and watch out for the rolling balls. First of all, when you have to disclose that your game resembles another game, let alone a real classic, your nose is so far up your own ass you can't even breathe. I get that they made these descriptions hastily in the allotted time, so they probably just couldn't make up a good story, but come on. If you're expecting a pig version of Rambo, prepare to be disappointed. It's Illuminator! Except you don't have to kill a set number of enemies, but reach the door at the top. Which, by the way, always looks like you're going to get outside, but then in fact there's another room. When I said that they probably just kept making sprites and graphics and dropping them into a pool to draw from, I was not kidding. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what they did. So let's say they had 200 sprites, and they had 52 games. Then for each game they just picked graphics that could fit the theme, but never went back to change any of them. So what else is new? Nothing. Same controls, same mechanics, same everything. Except you're a pig with blue hair. And when you die, he's looking at you like, I trusted you, but now I'm porked. Why do some characters get a seizure when they die? It's like their brain gets sapped, so they just twitch about in an unconscious state with muscle contractions before they finally kick the bucket. Sounds like he's shitting himself as well. The game files do show that there are unused power-up blocks. Pretty ambitious, seeing that shit like this would have never been coded in. Of course, the level has to spawn enemies as soon as the level starts because it's empty. This time these stationary enemies are dynamite, but they don't actually explode or anything, it's just a sprite they chose. Way to trick me into thinking I need to be away from them. What? You want me to talk about Illuminator for the 20th time? 1-up! Salmon on mustard. Good luck making that out on a CRT television. The reason the game gives you 1-ups is because for some reason you only start with 1 life. As soon as level 1 starts, you'll probably game over right out the gate. Funny how if you press up and jump on a ladder at the same time, the travel speeds of both attributes get added on top of each other and you'll be able to clear all of the ladders with 1 jump. Further backing up the theory about the ladders just being background tiles with added functionality to them, where doing any actions inside their area will modify the original values. In a good game like Mega Man, you snap into a ladder and it actually has various functionalities built in, but in a game like Action 52, the ladders just modify existing values to something else. Change the sprite stance, the ability to hover and float up. It's not really climbing, it's just tricking you into believing you're climbing. Hence, you can also go left and right on it and it feels like shit. The bowling ball seems to be the fastest one, so just pray none of them spawn. Can't we get a weapon? Can't we get anything? You have plenty of games to steal a weapon from. Now we just deal with bullcrap like this. If your luck is out, multiple balls will spawn on the same platform, making it impossible for you to beat the stage, so you just have to kill yourself. Look, everything is faster now. It's literally one of the easiest things to code. Speed equals 50, now speed equals 80. 10 levels by the way, but the game can be beat in like 3 minutes. If I see another Illuminator clone, I'm going to probably beat it and show it to you. Time warp tickers. As the ticker continues, you must stop the hour blasters and jump the time warp to stop the tickers. What is this I hear? Some of the music, like I said, was stolen. This is one of the tracks. This music is actually from an Atari SD game called The Music Studio. This is the bottom of the sprite pool. Every sprite that didn't make it is in this game. You're a pair of fucking fingers flicking enemies. It seems like this is trying to predict the future or something, I don't know. It looks like something you make on opioids. Whenever a sprite is wiped, it says time? I did some research and all that I could find was that one of the developers said it's a reference to a Miami dance song that would repeat the word time over and over. I still don't understand what that has to do with the game, or the fingers, or anything else. When digging a bit deeper, this game, as well as Crybaby and a few others, were designed by one of the developers who wasn't a developer at first, but a fresh musician. He was trained by the other guys who had game development experience worth of a few weeks. That is messed up. But it also explains a lot about the game then. This time your sprite doesn't turn into a killing machine when you press the attack button. You actually have to kill the enemies with your fingertip. If you attack but you're facing the wrong way, you die. This is extremely frustrating because the tip of your finger is only about 5 pixels wide, so you really need to make your mark. Timing is everything. This game also bears the same problem as Billy Bob, where you can't jump from a standstill. You need to be holding a direction at the same time. And once again, enemies float on the playfield, causing some of them to just run in the air. The replacements seem randomly thought out, but they do repeat in the same intervals. For example, this microphone-looking shithead always spawns a bit after his worm, so when you try to jump over the worm, you get killed by the mic. Better just to travel on the ground and flick the enemies there. And as usual, because of the random nature of spawning enemies in, by jumping over the initial enemy, there is usually going to be another and you're dead. Enemies can also come off from the left, so if you prefer jumping over the enemies, prepare to get your fingers up the... Look at this guy, there's no way ever to get hit by this. It's just for show. The background elements are too profound. Most, if not all of them, look like they can be jumped on, or that they should be avoided, but you just go through all of them. Just decoration. Level 2 also violates basic design principles. Like these pipes in the background, they look like they're in your way, blocking you, but no, you can just walk past, finger past them. I'm not kidding, after a few minutes of listening to this jump sound, my left ear started ringing. I swear this activates something in your inner ear and irritates it. 2 levels of the same crap and it's time to repeat level 1. I say it's time to fuck off. Jigsaw. Challenging Jigsaw puzzles. Shows you picture, then scrambles it and you must put it back together. Finish one and they get more and more difficult. Every time I was doing a jigsaw puzzle, there was always a little boy trying to kill me with a nail gun. Excuse me, but what? They seem to have messed up another description. And title. And quite possibly the game. I took a few steps and already noticed how some of the enemies are placed inside the ground, so they have to wiggle themselves free first to do their thing. Another game where the enemies move back and forth on the platforms they are placed in. God. Reminds me of those Chinese videos where people work in shit conditions and get electrocuted by something they didn't even know was dangerous. Oh god, that's just too good. Can't make this up. I like these small gaps, really a challenge. Oh, you're meant to use it to kill this enemy so we can proceed more easily. Now that's game design. It's like they tried this first without the small gaps and were like I like how there's something hairy on the bed with a gaping hole looking at us. Or is it a table? But my goodness. This is exactly why you don't make enemies just a few pixels higher than the platform. You can't anticipate that. It's never supposed to happen. Look at this bright table right here. Yep, in the background. Can't use it, can't sit on it, can't walk on it. I can only look at it. Oh, and this gap. No, that's a spike. What are you, fucking stupid? Don't tell me you can't color that differently to make it look like a spike. Stationaries, movables. Enemies that move way too fast for us to react, the same shit. Jump mechanics, too close to the right edge, can't jump off platforms without dying. It's all here, what are you, surprised? No! Then we can also see that the background tiles are made from 2 to 3 different parts, and something goes haywire and cuts the background into the wrong pieces, or they just threw shit in there and didn't check if the tiles looked good. Probably the latter. Some blocks you can go inside, like found in other games. It's like they were placing the ground blocks and then their fingers slipped on some of them and they added the wrong one. Although at times it almost looks deliberate, just so the enemies could pass through the blocks and kill you. One fatal flaw is that the enemies are so fast they scroll themselves off. If you move the screen just a little bit at a time, there's a good chance that the enemies will just collide with the wall, then go back and disappear. Or you could just shoot them, because there really isn't anything hard about this. If we don't count the ones that are on your level. 3 stages, that is all. Ninja Assault. The master has given you the task to defeat the Zinzan evil ninja tribes. Prove you are worthy. Defeat the evil tribe while avoiding the Chinese stars and other objects. I can't fit the whole title into the menu. So what letter or letters should I take away? Ninja. Too vague. Assault. Doesn't describe the game. Ninja ass. Nina Assault. Ninja Assault. Good enough. First thing you'll notice are the reflections. The floor is so reflective that the torches can be seen in broad daylight. You can move about, you can jump like the Ninja Turtles, and you can cross your sticks, which is your main way of hurting your foes. Just like in slashers, the screen stops and the enemy approaches you, stopping right before you so the fight can commence. This time there's knockback, which is interesting to see something new. Too bad it just delays the fight for no reason. Every time damage is dealt, you hear the same sound. Even the birds do it. The protagonist's voice is girlier. They, for whatever reason, changed the pitch for the player, I guess to differentiate when you take damage and when the enemy takes damage, but was this really the best? No, it wasn't. The birds home on you, but they can't move diagonally, so instead they go down or left, depending where you are positioned, choosing the faster route for every point of movement. Try dodging these dogs. Holy hand grenade. The reaction time you need for all of these games is just ludicrous. Not the rapper. And because the screen stops moving in a fight, more often than not you've moved a bit to the right during the fight, so in order to not get immediately killed after it, you need to go back left and let the screen orient back to its normal position. God forbid the game made sure the camera was always positioned well. What is this? A health bar? Why, of course! Anytime we have 4 hit points, the health bar magically shows up. Any other time? Nah. That would require a different phrase of code game-to-game basis, and that's too much work. The screen is able to wrap around again, but not in the normal way. If you hit the enemies over the screen estate, their sprite isn't really located anywhere on the screen, so they are able to fly through the right side and wrap around from the left. Sometimes you just keep hitting the enemies back and forth between the right and left side. Looking at how the games were done, adding some sort of an invisible wall to prevent this wasn't really possible unless you rewrote most of the games. Hit men with sticks. Hit birds with sticks. Hit dog. A boss fight in level 2. I am surprised now. Oh, it's just a normal fellow with more hit points. It seems like rather than put it at the end of the first level, a whole new stage was made for just the boss. Huh. Why not just spawn the boss as the last guy to appear? I guess they just wanted the game to feel longer. Holy shit, what is this? Battletoads! I mean, this game has some serious thought put into it. So, some of the logs flicker and some of them start to stop flickering in an interval. Does not make much sense. And if you trap on them, the ninja fellow just curls up and starts to sleep. This time they added invisible death blocks at the bottom, and falling for too long doesn't kill you. This also happens in stage 4 after falling from great heights. Just makes you think why they didn't use the mechanics of this game on other games. Guess they wouldn't match. The fuck is that? Seriously though, this is pretty refreshing. When the log starts to flicker, you still have about a second to jump off of it, so it's a nice leeway and a nice warning for the player. Well done! It's here when you begin to realize the size of the hitbox. It's roughly half of the size, only the front of the ninja is the part that takes damage. See how the leg bends up here? Standing on a flickering log or something else with this part of the sprite doesn't actually hurt you. Goodness, there's a visible end to this as well. I'm impressed. You just fall in the drink and die. Level done. And fuck. This level again is different and refreshing. Still quite bland and too easy, and do I even have to mention that the graphics doggone got it up there? My best guess here is that the bank switch is acting up again, and since this is level 4 and knowing that Cheetahmen has 2 level 3s, it has got to have something to do with the same bug. Makes you think if they had the first boss in level 1 instead and had 3 levels, could this actually have been avoided? Anyway, this level only has birds. Nothing too new, but at the end there's a garbled mess of shit you can just easily kill as it keeps moving in a triangular pattern. Hey, we found it! Browsing the sprites of the game, we can actually see that it's a dragon head. There are also flames, but they were never used. But hey, at least we have a final boss that's unique. Well, unique in a very special way. They tried. Robbie and the robots. Robbie must lead his good robots against his evil brother Brainy. But Brainy has his own robots, and it's not going to be easy. You know what's not going to be easy? Looking at this guy, this is the most pedophile looking sprite I've ever seen in any game. I mean, look at his robe and everything, white pants, a small gun, capable of piercing a kid's skull, and the overall aesthetics just makes me uneasy. You know what else makes me uneasy? The fact that you can just run right and keep firing, and nothing will ever do anything. They also used another sprite's template for this one, because the shots are coming from the back of the sprite and not the gun itself. Shit. Now we actually have to do something. Nobody told me this. All I've seen is people play this for 10 seconds and give up. Well, level 2 welcomes us back to the world of multi-layer ground blocks, but this time the pits kill you, even when there's a ceiling. Damn, they're getting smarter, adding those invisible death blocks. Gotta watch out for the kidney stones the enemies shoot. Okay, it's actually a challenge now. Like with any other similar game, enemies bum rush you faster than you can anticipate. One helpful tip, you ready for this? Oh, you already figured it out. Sprite limit, so keep shooting to negate any bullets coming from the turrets. There are no bosses, so you don't have to fear about preventing them from spawning. My god, the technicalities here. You have to be a master of controlling this game if you want to survive. Stage 3, back to running right and shooting. Oh, we seem to have killed the evil brother. So they just made him into a normal enemy instead of a boss. I mean, alright, why not? What a twist. Turns out you can't just run through this after all. There are some placements which require your full concentration. This is rough, yet so familiar. It doesn't differ from the same kind of games we've already seen, but some of the turret placements make this hell. And again with this shallow block bullshit. Why do you have two versions of the same block when they even look the same? Wow! He ran so fast we completely ignored collision. Another good example of how the enemies move in the games. And another example of a completely useless game. The difficulty curve is more complex than Eve's. The Action Game Master. Boy gets dragged into the TV while playing video game. Changes character into one of the three Cheetahmen and must fight off all the bad guys from the previous 51 games. The Action Game Master was at home playing his video game when suddenly an arm reached out of the TV and pulled him inside. When he looked up, he saw three gigantic yellow bodies. It was the Cheetahmen. He began to explain. The Cheetahmen told off the enemies here in the game world. Don't worry, we will fight for you. The Cheetahmen ran off. And now, the Cheetahmen.
During this game, you will have 3 Cheetahmen, a different one in every second level to fight for you.
Oh! Here we are. End of the line. Action 52 has been like a funhouse. A funhouse is a linear sequence of scares. Take it or leave it is the only choice given. Makes you think about free will. Have our choices been made for us because of who we are? This was supposed to be a challenger for the Ninja Turtles and alike. So let's see why that didn't happen. I smell Ninja Assault. Fuck. It's the same controls and pretty much the same type of game. You keep moving and fight off enemies. Too lazy to code a falling animation? No problem. You explode into yellow balls when you touch a pit, water or anything else. Thank God these blocks don't kill you. I was ready to strangle a pig. The fuck is a dildo flying in the air? The biggest difference to Ninja Assault is that the screen doesn't stop for each enemy, but rather you have free control. Of course, no health bar, that must mean our HP isn't 4. Kill an enemy or take a hit, they both make the same sound. That should make it easy. And these bats, they just follow you, which is a nice gimmick, but it's hell to deal with because of the perspective and the size of our sprites. We climbed. I'm surprised they were able to make big ladders. Man, it's so fun to dodge fucking something that's in an angle, and you can't move diagonally. And there's so much space at the top, but you can't go there because the area to walk ends at the same tile. The edge tile is different, but barely, so it's hard to see the difference. When somebody dies, it sounds like a pigeon getting molested. I just love how in every game like this, you're walking and having the summer stroll of your life, only to be instantaneously killed by something you had no idea was coming. Most of this game is you trying to trick the AI into following you someplace where you can kill them. Next level and we're actually going down. That's nice, can't see where you're going. You can also jump in the air now, because for some reason attacking in the air resets your last jump, so it thinks you landed already and gives you another. Forever. There's not much use for this as most of the enemies are in the air anyway. Oh, what? The lowest ground level is set to kill you, but why? It's not like you could go there anyway. Yeah. Doing shit before the screen triggers to the right is always fun. Can't seem to break it in any way though. Saddam? I mean Satan? Yes, it's all the sprites from all of the games for some reason. Oh right, 3 months. In all honesty, this game is so close to Ninja Assault, there's not much left to say, other than the level design is some of the best in the cartridge, and rightfully so. It's still not saying much, it's still snore. There's a boss! With an original pattern! And dead. But my god, they made a new pattern there. Hercules, the largest of the three. Oh, fuck. Great, look at this asshole. He's like 1/4 of the screen estate. Ooze, Robbie turrets, Dedant spiders, all of your favorites. The looks of the stage, the graphics, they're pretty impressive. The background has animation, it looks lively. But the only attack we've got is a stomp and a punch, but luckily it changes our whole sprite into a damage dealer. And now we're here. And we just aged like 40 years. This is the same problem we saw in Billy Bob already, so there's nothing more to discuss. Conveyor belts are never taught to the player, so the first time you encounter them, they're over the pit. You should always teach the player of the mechanics first, then put them to the test. The ladder just ends. No, it doesn't even end, it's just cut. You can't go any further. There's only one block visible on the right, cluing you in that you're supposed to go right. Just great designs overall. And now we're too close to the edge, so we have to reorient the screen. God help us. Calm down, it's almost over. The waterfalls actually have a current that's pushing us. Look at it, look at it. Color be surprised. Some of the protagonists of the other games are enemies of the Cheetahmen apparently. What should I even think about that? Here's Mr. Rhino. If you don't want to get killed, go to the left side of the screen, tap right once and punch him when he gets near. This makes your sprite invincible if you just time it well. Doing it in the middle is a death wish because he's going to be on top of your sprite for too long. Another great pattern, huh? Level 5 is missing the intro text for the cheetah. The developers forgot to put the alphabet characters next to the image tiles in the ROM. A small fuck up, right? Well, it should say...
Apollo is the master of the crossbow. Use the crossbow to defeat the enemies on the last 2 levels and get Dr. Morbius.
I mean, we have to give it to them. Having multiple characters with everyone having their own unique attack, whether stolen from the other bits of code and assets or not, is pretty impressive in its own way. Fuck this though, some enemies are too low to shoot and you can't duck. I love shooting condom wrappers with a bow. Oh, the Chinese people! The only way to survive this is not to take any damage on the easy enemies, because you need the health to plow through some of the bad placements. Oh, it's just a boss that's left. Well, it's a set pattern, it repeats, never actually causing you harm if you don't move from the left side. Shoot me in the fucking head. Cheetahmen actually is considered having warps. You know how in some stages you warp into different levels by dropping in pits and whatever? But if that was their idea of Battletoads style warps, my goodness, are they out of their minds. Secrets are one thing, but just have an indication, have something. Even if they are legitimate warps, they got messed up, so it really doesn't help the fact. There is a warp inside the second waterfall in the first level, and the second pit in levels 3 and 5, but they all take you to the grey glitched level, well, depending on the revision. They might actually work as well. I'm sure you know about Cheetahmen 2, but I'm fucking spent. Cheetahmen 2 is nothing else but more of the same with the same problems. It explains a little more about the story, but that's really it. Action 52, put forth by a businessman who didn't understand the video game world, hiring a few college students to make 52 games in 3 months, is one of the biggest laughingstocks in video game history. The effort the guys put in was in a way remarkable, but in other ways extremely lazy. They could have told Vince it's impossible to make it good, it's impossible to make it way he wants to be, but Vince was almost never in the office. The developers weren't going to be paid anything in advance, but after pressing the matter they all got $1,500, but that was everything they got for the entire project. Later on the guys met, in 2013, to get together one more time and play the cartridge. Supposedly they had a good time laughing at their own creations. Action 52 was never anything more than a few unsupervised guys having a laugh and a good time. I feel like Action 52 is still better than some, if not most of the early access games we see today. And that is something I never thought was possible. We live in a world where games are not complete when they hit the store shelves. No putting the cartridge in your console and straight up playing it. We've got console updates, game updates, bug fixes, glitches, it never ends. When I was young, things were different. This is partly the reason I never got another console after PlayStation 2. Action 52 might not have a single good game in it, but the story behind it is interesting. And the people who worked on it influenced our views on video games today. You get what you ask for, and you get what you pay for. This was Vince Perry's biggest life lesson. One businessman in the wrong field, 4 people who didn't know what they were doing. With no way to deal with the past, I get my eyes on the road, off the rear view mirror and the roadkill behind me.